Hey, welcome, jerks. Sorry we're a little late tonight. Trying to get home from the dentist and raining and traffic and trying to get the guest up and all of a sudden my audio doesn't work, but we got that fixed. We're good to go. Sorry a little late, but we're just busy working, trying to get this show off. Got a great guest here back again. I think this is our fifth time being on the show now. Talk about this video from the Karen Reed trial. Every time they bring up, something on the screen, we notice a little more, and this guest, Abby, she's returning. We call her the video Jesus. She always has more for us, and she's brought some more documentation tonight. So let's get right into it. Let's bring up Abby. Hey, Abby, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the Young Jerks.
Hi, thanks for inviting me back.
I'm like trying to do three things at once: drink something, check on my dogs, do a show with you. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Wonderful, because my whole workflow theory is coming into play.
Yes. Yeah, yesterday was another wild
It
day
was
of
wild.
testimony. Yeah, what did you think about yesterday?
I think they should have not tried to correct themselves in the, in the Sallyport videos that they played. It was bad. It was like really bad. Like right when you pull it up, right? You see, they're not active icons, but you see like Photoshop, you see Premiere, and then even in the background, because it looks like it was like remotely displayed, you see After Effects in the background. And then what was actually LTL sent me something today too, just to get to it. It was I think it was on the Free Karen Reed Facebook page, and basically it set the program. So like the little like icon that was square with an eye in the middle of it was basically called it's a what is it? I can't even it's AEGISUB, Advanced Subtitle Editor. So there's a subtitle editor also on the screen, which again, so I think we already talked about like my first, so we like the theory A is that they just replaced the .ps files and got it to play in Equivision, which is what I did, but I didn't know if they were that skilled to do it. Or they did, method B, which was like more of the screen capture from Equivision and tweaked it a little bit. So after yesterday, seeing the player function, and now that we know there's a subtitle editor right there, which is basically what you'd have to use. Or, you could use After Effects too, but just to like make new time codes. And we saw the time codes that were different. So the first Sallyport time code was blue. The one we saw yesterday was yellow. It's kind of all over the place.
Wild, wild. It's funny too because today we broadcast the Aiden Carney Turtle Boy court hearing in Cosgrove. Submitted some video and admitted that it was edited, spliced together, and audio enhanced, which is just like, wow,
No.
tell us more that you're editing a lot of videos at this DA's office with the special prosecutors. It's
Was
funny.
was this the thing with Lindsay? The audio?
No, no, this was new video from D&E Pizza apparently.
They have a lot of I because I remember there was a slice of audio there that I actually went in and I cleaned it up in Pro Tools. And it was like there was like a claim about Turtle Boy that he said something that he didn't say, and like I was looking in the background of the noise, and I'm like, yeah, dude, like this is like edited audio, and I said that too.
Yeah, the whole Turtle Boy thing too. There's so many charges that are just so outrageously BS. Like when he's quoting Colin, he's basically quoting what Colin said, and they use it against him and make it seem like he's making threats. It's like, no, he's imitating Colin and he's quoting Colin. Obviously a joke, and they act like it's a threat. It's just the stuff that they're throwing at this guy. It's
I,
just so ridiculous. A lot of it.
I just don't understand. So tell me, like, And again, maybe it's because I haven't lived in Massachusetts for so long, but when did it become legal to admit edited footage and
I don't
edited
know. Yeah.
audio? Like,
Yeah.
that's insane to me.
Yeah, you would think, especially too when, like the Sallyport videos, like at least today, Cosgrove admitted up front, this has been spliced together. He told us. They don't
But
tell
why
us,
would
like
you even
Bukaki
present
and
it?
them. Yeah, Bukaki and them don't even do that. They just like, "Oh, I don't know. No idea." Oh,
But why would you even present something like that? That's like, I mean, because the moment that a video hits an editing system, it's not real. Like, that's what people need to understand, is that it's not real. Once it hits an editing system, like Premiere, Final Cut, Avid, it is not a real video anymore. Like, it's not in its original format. It's encoded and decoded. It is not a real video. You can't admit non-real videos in non-native formats. I think this is what's scary. I think too about our modern era is that we have so much AI. We have so much different video editing software. And I mean, video editing software now, like I was back with the mini DV tapes, like back in the day, like 2007,
I
mini DV tapes, like very limited effects. These days, anytime any video is edited, it could be anything. Like you could literally alter anything in the world. There's so many different plugins, there's so many different effects, there's so many different audio. Like, and even now they have, and the scary thing that came out recently was the AI generated voice to make a voice sound like it's somebody else. That scares me. I hate
yeah, deep
AI, which is
fake.
probably my video Jesus mission because I hate fake video.
Yeah, it's funny too. Like, I just laughed my ass off too over the last year plus because back in December of 20, what was that? 2023, January 2024. KP, Krusty Panties, as I call her, she earned that name. She and Grant Smith and all these other clowns were trying to say that I edited video, that
I heard
I manufactured, that I did all this crazy stuff, and it's so fun, and that I did witness intimidation, and it's so funny to watch the state doing exactly what they accused me of doing with no proof. I didn't do any of it. I'll test to it. I'll go to court. I'll testify to it for Aiden. I've already told Betero I will. They lied about me, and they actually did what they accused me of. Number one, and then to turn around, KP Crust. I'll call her Krusty Panties. I didn't call her that until she started doing the bullshit against me. She earned that name. I don't take that
he
lightly.
earned it.
She earned it. And Krusty Panties, she accused me of witness intimidation. She's up on charges for witness intimidation. So it's just the last year plus. I just sit there and laugh. I just sit back. I sit back in my little studio and I just laugh my ass off because I know I've seen these stories before. I've seen life like this. What they project on you always the false projections that they put on you always come back to get them and always bites them in the ass. So the thing in life, sometimes you just got to sit back and wait for it to come back to them because
Yeah.
it will. And it has. So I just laugh. I just laugh so hard.
I think the audio that I'm talking about that I did was when Krusty Panties was actually accusing you of editing audio. And she's like, yeah, this is edited. And that's when I actually did that whole thing, that analysis. And I'm like, actually, no, it's not edited. I did it in Pro Tools and I looked at the background. And then I actually, like, when I upped the background, I'm like, look, if this was edited, you would see a cut. Like you would see the cut in the audio in the background because you can separate the background and in the foreground. And yeah, that was actually I think that was for you because I liked you so much in your show.
Yeah, and I have no idea if that was edited. I don't believe it was from my source. It was not edited. But
It wasn't edited.
I have nothing to do with that. And I didn't even upload it too. They're so stupid. They accused me of uploading, witness intimidation, editing. None of it did I do. So
Well, no, you
F
didn't
you.
edit it because that was
Yeah.
100% not edited. Like I
Yeah.
actually went in to Pro Tools and not just like Adobe Audition because Adobe Auditions I call it very prosumer, but I went into Pro Tools and I actually extracted the background and the foreground and I upped the background levels because that way you can tell like when there's a shift in the audio wave. And yeah, no, it wasn't edited.
And
100% wasn't.
it's so funny too because I have no history of doing any of that crap. Like I don't manufacture stuff. I don't do that. I would never edit anything.
mean,
it's like ludicrous on its face. I think the state police looked into it and realized, yeah, this is all bullshit.
but can we just like address why the state police are even looking? These are taxpayer dollars. Like that's the crazy thing. The state police shouldn't be looking into any of this shit because it's so ridiculous. I'm so glad I don't pay Massachusetts taxes anymore.
Yeah, looking into me. Like, come on. Come on. The
We have
only
rubber
thing I ever did
duckies.
the
We have
only thing
Mike
I ever
Crawford,
did
who's like,
illegal in the last 25 years is cannabis, and it's legal now. So like I am 100%. I don't even speed. I don't get parking tickets. Like I pick up my litter, I pick up other people's litter. Like I am, you'd have to go back 30 years to find any shit on me. This is so
we
funny.
seem very earthy. You seem very earthy, crunchy. So I would never even think that you have
Yeah,
any bad record.
exactly. And I wasn't always like, if you went back to when I was 18, 19, 20, even in my early 30s, I was not where I am now. Like, you know what I mean? Like you would have
Yeah.
found shit. Like there's no doubt. That was not like that. It took a long time for me to I think too long. I'm envious of kids who are like 20 and they get their shit together. I'm just like, wow, how did you figure it out so quickly?
Is that a thing now? Like I haven't seen a 20-year-old that's like has their shit together.
Well, I mean, well, it depends, I guess. There are some.
I mean, I think it's just a generation. I don't know. I'm old, so I just like to, take a poop on like younger kids sometimes, but
Well, I just look back at the way we were back then. It's like, Jesus Christ, we were wild. We were crazy, especially in the
yeah,
90s and stuff. People were just, it was a crazy time.
yeah, it was.
So you got some files tonight. Do you want me to put this one up right now?
Yeah, sure.
Where do we want to start? I guess. Do you want to start with the files, or do you want to start talking more about court yesterday?
Well, I'm trying to think of the best route. I Yeah, let's start with like my little blackboard of metadata. I have kindergarten paintings for everybody and they're all composed tonight. So I think maybe this will be a good. So I'm going to switch
Perfect
screens.
for me. Perfect.
I have it pre-composed. Um
And Ahmad just put Abby's info in the chat. I'm going to try to pin that up while Abby's bringing up. Is that what we're doing? Bringing up something else?
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up the little chalkboards for a second. Let me just see.
I think I see it.
Can you see my screen okay?
There it is. Is that it?
Yeah, so I'll just turn off. Oh, did that not? Hold on. One more time. I promise.
I'm trying to bring up your.
It seems to be like a trend.
There we go.
There we
We've
go.
had some system issues tonight.
All right. So I'll just start with just basically because we're really just going over what metadata is. I think that metadata at the end of the day is like really like the big issue in this case. Because what we saw yesterday is, I'll turn my camera on for this. We saw yesterday is basically Brennan was saying that, and Brennan was agreeing with the defense, saying that they don't have the original metadata. But yet they're still playing these files on Equivision that are proprietary files, but they don't have any metadata attached to them. And that's not correct with video. Like video, even if you don't have the activity logs, even if you don't have like, again, like an image hard drive of where these videos were precisely stored, you would still, if you had a proprietary file, you would still be able to validate it just based on it being proprietary. It has specialized data. And not to mention, like their defense expert said that the files that the defense had in their possession were not proprietary files. So we know that they're not proprietary, but yet Brennan is saying that they got the exact same files that were in the Lally files that we saw, which we went over before, which are basically .exe files, .ps files. And these were all theoretically the files that Lally had. And so I'll just go through this briefly of like what exactly metadata is. So just everybody isn't confused on what we're talking about and what
this is what they're not giving the defense, and the judge is letting them get away with it, right?
Basically, yeah. And this is really what you need. So there's a lot of different types of metadata that are in an XML, that are in the EXIF data. So I will put this full screen so everybody can see it. Is it full screen now, sort of?
Yes.
All right.
Do you want me to remove us from the screen? I could do that, but actually, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the best I can do right now.
Okay, let's see
Or I
if I
could
can
do this. I could do this sideways like that.
Well, does this, can you see full screen now?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I see what you mean. Yeah. I'll put us
Okay.
side. That's better. Yep.
Yeah, so this is basically what we've been kind of talking about initially, which is what is metadata? So there's a bunch of different things that video metadata can contain, which includes like the modification date, and this is kind of like the big issue with the modification and the creation date. So when I think it was who was the people that moved over the files like recently?
Colleen Crawford.
I think it was in a very recent filing how they dragged and dropped the files that are now
Oh,
like
that retired police officer from Canton.
yeah. So they were dragging and dropping the files like recently. So they probably basically destroyed at least the modification data, but you can still read in between the lines of the modification data because so there's two types of files. There's an XML file. So there's the XML file and the EXIF data file. The EXIF is basically, I like to call like the surface file. And the surface file contains the creation date, the modification date. It can also include what the aspect ratio is, in addition to the different container types. So if it's like an MP4, an AVI, Windows Media Video file. I mean, we have a plethora of different, again, like different containers that we can use. But that's basically what will be in the EXIF data. Also, like the author could be in it. So video is a little bit different than photo. So a lot of the time with photos, you can get the exact like camera model, the ISO that it was shot at. So that aperture and the ISO of like, if it was like darker, lighter, what the exact ISO is. So that's a little bit more technical. And then the frame rate. So you can kind of see all of this stuff in the EXIF data. And typically the EXIF data will match with the XML. And so when I say that this is important is that sometimes people can change the EXIF data. So there's multiple applications that you can even do on your phone that can change your video file, or if you even go into like a video program, you can change the EXIF data. But typically what won't change, and this is why it's important to compare the EXIF with the XML, is there's a lot of different information in the XML. And the XML can contain a multiple amount of things, which includes like closed captions, timestamps, and then it also includes these this type of information. So when we first, just going back to what we talked about initially, which is the container. So we have like this box right here, and that's basically our little decode container. And that decode container contains everything from an MP4, an AVI, an MOV, an MKV, WMV, FLV, and that's basically like our decoder. And then our encoder is all of these different type of flavors too, which again is H.264, H.265, the HEVC codecs, AV1, and VPN. But that's basically what some of this XML data can contain. And that's basically what we call like the encoding processing information. And this is important because the encoding processing information will, despite if these modification dates were changed. So say if I drag and drop something, which again can destroy the data, or it can like destroy maybe the creation date or the modification date. The XML data is really just the encoding and decoding processing information. So we can probably still, with that data itself, we could theoretically, if it wasn't changed, and that's why it's important to compare both different metadata structures or file types, if just putting it in more simplified terms, to compare them to make sure that all the data matches. Because if there is like, for example, if we can see that the processing, like if the frame rate, so if frame rates in the XML have creation dates and modification dates. So if we can see the creation date is, later, that's probably more likely the file's been altered, because you're not going, that's more of a decode and encode thing. It's not more of a, I'm moving a file over. I'm not changing the container. I'm not changing the decoder, and I'm not changing the encode. I'm only changing the surface file of moving it over. So that's where there's that differentiation between the creation date and the modification date on the more of the surface level. And then there's the XML information of when these frames were decoded and encoded, which that's important to look at, because again, I think that these files, even the files that the defense has, can be debunked if you look at the processing information. So we have in that XML, we can have like the bit streams, the encoding and decoding processing information. We'll also have that group of pictures. So the inner frames, the predictive frames, the bidirectional frames, we'll have those algorithms depending on, again, like what encode and decode are. And those are important because those will tell you if something's cut. So if there's an abnormality in the cutting of a supposed native capture, you'll see that in the IVP pattern. And so that's basically what video metadata is in a nutshell. So we have all of these different things. And again, video metadata can also include hash values, checksums, all these different type of things. So when we talk about the Sallyport files, which are the proprietary files that the prosecution claims they don't have, but they do have because they're playing it in Equivision, supposedly, these are the file types that we're talking about. So we're talking about an EXE, we're talking a PSX, and a .ps. And so when we talk about the .exe, this natively, so when we talk about proprietary files, we're talking about the way the program is encoding and decoding the file structure. So they put in proprietary data for their player. And that's what makes them so hard to replicate, because they're packaged with the player in the file, which I'll show after this. So basically, again, these EXE packages can include the video stream, audio stream, and then this is the player data, and then the Equivision Media ePlayer. And the container, again, is basically just that kind of codec that we talked about, which is an MPEG program stream. So that's basically the structure of an EXE. Then when we talk about the PSX, it's basically kind of the same thing. The only difference with the PSX is that it's not an executable file. It does have the player information. So when you click on it, if you have the player installed, it will pop right up. But if you don't have the player installed, it will get a little, it'll get a little dicey. But it does have all of these. Yep.
Question about, I think I know what it is. Sometimes when I ask questions, people get mad at me and hold them against me. Like, he's so stupid, he didn't know the answer to this. But I see this come up a lot. They want to know what proprietary is. I think I know what it is. It's within like a software service, or even like we use it a lot in business. Like, I remember I had an anti-compete against me with AIG when I left there, and they said, you can't use any of our proprietary information. Basically, like I don't know, within their system, I guess, right? Like, what is proprietary? How do you explain that to someone that doesn't know what that word means?
So proprietary, for example, so when I worked at Avid, we had a very proprietary type of codec in container, which is DNX and DNX HD, which is a proprietary codec. So if you kind of think of it as video people out there, DNX HD, it's an Avid codec. MXF was, kind of like the other not really proprietary to Avid, but they did, kind of do a lot of work on MXFs to make it compatible with their DNX HD codecs. So when we talk about proprietary, it's really just a proprietary coding that they're using with their players. So for example, a lot of typical video formats will play with, again, if I import in any of these codecs. So just to get back to our encode and decode, or what we like to call wrappers and flavors, I'll just get back to that slide. That way it makes a little bit more sense. if we get back to this full screen, can you see it's still full screen? Sorry, my computer's a little slow today.
Yeah, it's back to full.
So when we talk about proprietary formats, so for example, DNxHD is an Avid codec, but Avid codecs work with a lot of these different containers. Specifically, you know, like an MXF is usually like the container for it. So it can also work with, you know, a variety of different containers. But the thing with Equivision is very different because it's its own player. So it only plays with its own player. If I try to open up a .ps, which is, again, when we talk about .ps, a lot of people will say, oh, it's PostScript. It's not PostScript. It's called a program stream, which is an MPEG program stream. So it's a proprietary program stream that's in a container that the player will directly point to. So it's basically like a proprietary player. They can only play their files. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if I try to open up a Equivision file in Windows Media Player or VLC, like, it's not going to open. It will only open its files in its player. And these are the three types of files that Equivision will only open in its players. You cannot open a .ps in VLC, well, their PS, because it does not take that certain type of program stream, which is when I was talking about in our last couple streams, when we talk about overwriting the H.264, you can't overwrite this .ps. So if I try to overwrite this .ps, I can't do that because the container is specifically modified for the Equivision player. And that's where it gets tricky. But you can replace the stream because the stream is basically just, again, an H.264. H.264 is used for YouTube, Vimeo. I mean, a lot of different websites. So when you're uploading and downloading videos, it's a very common codec. But it does have a very specific container that you can't change the container. You can change what's inside the container, but not the container itself. So that's what we mean by proprietary. So if you do not have the proprietary files, you cannot play these three types of files in the Equivision player. Yet we still keep seeing these three types of files playing in the Equivision player. So do you see how that doesn't add up?
Definitely.
And that's the confusing. That's the confusing part to me. So I'll just take a break just to see if you have any questions.
There was a comment. Here's one. The videos Hank showed in court were brightened to look worse. There is also a blur in the center of the taillight on all videos that you can see when zoomed in. Did you catch that today? Yeah, or yesterday?
I did, and I did post about it too. So I think all of those videos were post-produced 100%. I mean, they were post-produced last time, but this time they were extremely post-produced. And so I hate to say it because, you know, when you like throw out the word AI generated, it has, you know, everybody can just say AI, but AI like is it's not difficult to prove, but I would say I'll just put a percentage on this. I am 89% certain that the videos that we saw in court yesterday were AI generated.
And something popped up too that showed that he was using AI, didn't it, on his computer?
Yeah, so that was, I think, in Windows Meet. Like, I don't know about that because that was more just like a pop-up, I think, of a program. Like that happens in Photoshop. That can happen in like Premiere. So I don't put too much stock in it. I think it was funny though. I think the video god was like looking down and just saying like, this is ridiculous. But I think at the end of the day, like it seems strange. So we can go back to the actual Sallyport video, and I can point out exactly why I think that video was AI generated. So if we look at that video, there's snow there that wasn't. There's snow. There's like a clutter. Everything's seemingly in the same place, but there's like a bike. There's a weird looking box. There's a lampshade. I don't know if anybody caught the lampshade type thing. And then we have this time code that really the tracking itself doesn't match like a 0 point of it looks like it was spaced out. Like it looks like it was aerial, but it wasn't it was like not 0 point. It was like almost tracked. It was odd. Not to mention it was blue. So basically what they're saying is that this Sallyport wasn't touched, but yet now we have a blue time code. We had a blue time code and now we have a yellow time code. And the time code looks cooked. Like it doesn't even look like it did before. And then we had it like in the Sallyport, like at least the one in the Sallyport was like at its original origination, like at the bottom. But then we go back to the other Sallyport videos and then it's on top. It's like not the same file format. Like, did they lose the XML data? I don't think so, because this is the thing is I won't play in Equivision without these like proprietary, like, so when you have a .ps, which I'll get to in the next 2 slides, it will export with an XML. So basically the XML tells the placement of where that time code is going to go in Equivision. It's like a weird type of thing. And the .ps file is, again, like kind of like the data pointer file. But we saw in the Lally files, we saw none of those like little additional files that like live outside the container. So just getting back into this, and then now will all make sense. And then I'll shut up. But it's, let me just get back to the... So we already covered the .ps file, right? So this is the PSX file. So this is basically kind of the grid for what a .ps file looks like. And these are the files that we saw in the Lally files, which conveniently, which was confusing. So in the Lally files, we kind of saw an exe before this .ps, which was odd. And that was kind of a thing that like kind of threw me off a little bit. And I'm like, that's odd in general. But this is also a proprietary Equivision file type, but unlike the other file types, so like an Equivision .ps is a multiplex file, which means that it combines the video and the audio together. So the other file types will have a separate video channel and will have a separate audio channel. This file specifically has a video and audio channel that are like multiplex, so they're combined together, and that's what we call muxing. So these are the only files that are contained in this container, which is why this container is the easiest, again, to alter. If you were going to alter an actual Equivision file and make it play an actual Equivision ePlayer, this is what you would do. You would use this type of file, just because these other database files, so when we have the other database files, which is like the .ps, which is a proprietary data file, and the XML file, they live outside the container. So they're not in here, which means that if we, again, we're changing the audio and video multiplex stream, we can do a code. Again, we could do something with Python to basically kind of change this file so it'll read this and not throw the player off. So that's why this is probably, again, like the most simple one to alter, which is the one that I was able to alter. But it still doesn't explain when we were in court. So when we were in court, we saw, I'll just see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. In court, we saw that like they were playing this file. So this is the interior Sallyport backwall.exe, which didn't make sense because it's very difficult. And I tried to re-engineer an exe. I tried to get it to play in Equivision and I couldn't do it. But this looks legit, and it looks legit when it was played. So that was very perplexing to me because, again, I fully believe that this video was modified. And if we look at, again, Equivision will not play a .ps or will not play with a PS properly without this like PSI and XML file, which is important. And this is what the native structure looks like. So if I went into Equivision right now, it would export these 3 file types. I would click on this and drag it into the Equivision player and it would play flawlessly. If I don't have these 2 file types, it will crash the player. It won't render the player correctly, and it might not even play at all. So that's why those 2 components are important. So the real mystery is, how did they get the exe to play in court? And why does it look like Equivision? So I was able to re-engineer that, which goes into our next thing. Am I losing anybody yet? Or does anybody have any questions? So I can stop for questions.
We got a couple of super chat comments. Who is that? I can't even read that. Jay. We'll just call him Jay. Jay says this woman needs to consult the defense.
I'm a
Anna,
nerd.
but yeah, Anna Banana says the defense needs Abby. Is there any way she can speak with them? Have you spoken with them? We ask you this every show.
I haven't yet. Nobody's contacted me, but I get why. Because let's just be honest, I would be a biased witness. I have been salivating for Sally for the last year. I've been trying to debunk her
They were
for like,
aware. I mean, yeah. I mean, the defense is watching this stuff. I know that Kelly Reed, like someone posted about your show last night with LTL,
oh
and they
nice.
tagged Kelly Reed in one of the Facebook groups, and they're like, "Are you aware of this?" And she's like, "Yes, we are." Like, so they're
Oh
definitely
good. They're aware of
watching.
it.
They're paying attention. They. I think they already are picking up on a lot of the same stuff Abby is too, as well.
And that's the thing, is like when you have an expert witness, I mean, the Commonwealth would be all over if I was an expert witness. They'd be like, oh, well, you said this back then. They'd probably have a whole copy. I'm sure Kate Peters, because, you know, Kate Peters called me a fascinating little idiot back last August when I debunked her Alan Jackson and Karen Reed video for not being a live photo. I'm like, this wasn't a live photo. It was a video. And then it was made into a live photo. She did call me a fascinating little idiot. And you know her. She's probably like screenshotting all my tweets and just,
She's
you know, just
hilarious.
waiting
It's
for it.
yeah, it's funny how she is not fascinating at all. She is cringe. Anytime I hear her voice, oh, I could listen to Kevin for hours. You make me
You can,
listen to her for 30 seconds, and I am just like, I'll do whatever you want. Please stop. Please stop. Like her voice alone, I just can't stand it.
I agree with you. I think her voice is worse than Plevin's. I mean, Plevin's
Way
spacing
worse.
really
Way
kills. Yeah.
worse. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that I can't actually like listen to a whole Plevin stream. It's a little bit better than I would say Antiquated Turd or Antiquated Rogue.
Oh my
I did a
god.
mashup of him. He's the worst. I
Nope,
mean,
I'd say I'd listen to him. I he is bad. I would listen to him any day of the week over Kate Peter. Like Kevin and whatever, Rogue, they make me
Rogie
laugh.
Rogue.
They're so cringeworthy, they make me laugh. You'll
Oh,
have
they're
some
cringy.
laughter at it. But Kate, oh, I just can't stand that voice. I don't know how she does a show. I've tried to listen to it a few times, and it's so cringy. Her voice is just cringe, cringe, cringe.
It
You're like,
is. I think
"Oh,
and she
yeah,
talks so fast and it's
yeah,
just like on and on. And I mean, I talk fast. So like I talk fast when I'm nervous or whatever, or like if I'm trying to like get a point across, but she just doesn't quit. And
yeah."
then
She's trying to
Antiquated Rogue.
dominate.
Yeah.
Yeah, her fast talking is trying to dominate, and then you got Boomer who's like, "Yeah, man, yeah, that Mike, yeah, he's not really, like it's so funny. You
Oh
get
my
this
God,
like
the
laid
us.
back Boomer, and then you got
Yeah.
it's like, oh God, please stop, please stop. That
I
I
mean,
just
I
can't do
think I
that show.
prefer like even I don't know. I think if I had to do an order, I would listen to Plevin first. I don't Kate Peter and Rogie Rogue are like
I
I mean,
too.
Rogue Rogue does make me feel better about myself when I'm on a live stream and I say and like it's like and like that's his like live stream. So it's kind of, you know, makes me feel better about myself. But
Oh,
anyway.
we're passing over dog toys. We got the dog back in the studio. Let me show him. Come on, you want the treat? What? He wants a toy.
Aww.
Yeah, we've got a couple dogs here. I guess earlier I turned off the camera because my partner came home and they were barking, and one of them definitely wanted to go upstairs. Both of them, I let them out, and now the other one wants back in.
Isn't that how most dogs are? My sister has two dogs and like they're always in and out. I remember one time I was holding a couple meetings for work and I was staying over at my sister's and I'm like, oh my God, Brooke, how do you have so many dogs? They just like bark all the time. Like, how do you deal with it?
Right. Yeah, I have
That
it's
person.
funny because we're feeling really good tonight because we came off having 4 dogs here the last like 5 or 6 nights. So now we're down to 2.
God, that must have been so many dogs. That's so many dogs.
Yeah. And I got the big dog. The big dog's down here with me. He's staying here with us. But we had these 2 little These little terriers, man, they're the trouble ones. They get into they're funny. They get
They
into
get into
trouble.
trouble.
They do. They're stubborn little they have a mind of their own. The big Louie I have here, he is the sweetest one of all. I say, Louie, sit down, lay down. As long as he's got his toy in his bed, he's right next to my feet right now. He just
I
looked
feel
up
like
because
all
I
the
said his
bigger
name.
dogs are just more more well behaved.
Yeah.
I've seen like one of my really good friends has like two small dogs, and they just like bark all the time. Like they just bark a lot. So I'm a cat person. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't do the
Yeah.
barking.
They're asking about my dog. How is your customer feeling, Mike? Yeah, I have another customer that I'm covered for. Right, I'll be walking her dog tonight at 9 o'clock. She broke her femur bone. So I've been
No.
walking her dog around the clock, and hopefully April 1st is when she's expecting to walk again. That would be perfect timing, considering. We'll see.
Oh, that would be good. I'm sure she
Yeah,
misses her dog.
I
That's so
hope
sweet
so.
of you,
She had,
though.
yeah. She was in the hospital for a while. She's home, so she just can't walk him now. So
Oh,
he's
that's
he's happy she's home. Believe me, that's the best thing.
yeah, that's the
But
best thing. They get lonely.
they do. Enough about the dogs, though. Let's get back to the
Okay, we'll get
videos
back
and
to the things. I know we have a like kind of like a shorter cutoff
yeah,
time.
yep.
Um, so let me shut my thing off. So I want to make sure we don't have any technical difficulties. I'm going to share a different screen of how I made and re-engineered an EXE. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'm going to share my other screen, and then I'll explain it.
There we go.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right. So basically what I did is so this is just like a little bit of a test file that I created. So I made an MP4, and all I basically did was I just took this .ps that you see right here. This .ps, and prior it was an MP4. So just changed the end name of it. So instead of being MP4, I just changed it to a .ps. And then I took MPlayer. So MPlayer is a free software. You can download it. I'll provide the link. It's typically used with FFmpeg. A lot of people will use it for, like, again, it's like more of like open source media player. And it'll pretty much play anything. So that's, if you change the end name of it, it'll pretty much play anything, which is kind of cool, and which we'll get to, which is kind of important. So if you see right now, I changed that MP4 to a .ps, and and this is kind of, again, like looking like a PostScript file that it would look like on Windows. So that could definitely be what we saw in court. And then I changed the MPlayer to an ePlayer. So what I did is I replaced the MPlayer logo. So this like V right here, I replaced that, and then I replaced it with the Equivision logo. So it looked like ePlayer instead of just like this open source MPlayer. And then I hid this folder. So again, this folder holds the configuration file. So how the video is going to play in the player, it points to this configuration, which I'll show at the end. But so I did that. And then, so after I did that, I created a bat script. So a bat script basically is going to tell this Equivision, well, my fake Equivision player to play my Sally Turd video. And so we'll just go through that. So if we go through this and I just like drag and drop into ePlayer, we can see what can happen. So we'll just see it compiles. And so this is what it looks like in the background. So you can see it's playing in the background. I coded like the pre-script in the background. I actually added a person in there so you can see how it was masked based on the just based on what we talked about before. And so that's just kind of like how we did that. But what the main goal is to make this .ps file into an exe. So just so I can scroll through this for time sense purposes. So this is what a bat script looks like. So we're talking about bat script. This is what the bat script is. And this is basically just a command script prompt that is going to say ePlayer. This ePlayer exe is going to play my Sallyport.ps. And so then just to make this an executable file, we're going to go into what we call advanced. So this is a program, it's called advanced bat to exe converter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import my bat script. So I'm going to go back, import my ePlayer bat script, say open. And so just to explain what this is quickly. So let me just go back. So this basically when it says echo off. So when we saw that code in the background, what this script does is it's going to say, it's going to turn off the background command prompt that we saw when it was originally playing. So it's going to play blind. It's pointing to this file. And then it's going to time out after the exit. But it's going to let me pause, play. It'll have all the player functions. So then what we can do to make this look like a fake player or a fake file, right, is we're going to copy the actual. So this right here, we pause it. This is an actual Equivision file. So this is like an Equivision file that I exported out of Equivision. It's an exe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the version information, which, you know, again, is like super easy. We're going to change the product name, Equivision Media Player. We're going to change the version type. We're going to change the description. We're going to change the copyright. And then we're going to export the file to, and we're just going to name it like the Sallyport file, right? So then we're going to go back in. Did I put that in or maybe put that out? And so then again, it's going to play. So as you can see, it functions just like Equivision. It looks like Equivision. This top player, I configured to have the title on it. I changed the media player to have that .v. And then on top of that, like this time code right here is a fake time code. I just basically created this time code. It syncs up with the player itself. You can see it's not real. We have jump around in here, which is like, you know, but it looks like Activision, which is kind of fun.
Jump.
Yeah. So, and then just for the configuration settings again, so this is basically when we talk about the configuration settings, that was like the hidden file, which I think, again, when the defense looks at what they were given, look for hidden files. Because I think the ePlayer that they have on their, on the Lally files, which supposedly were the same files that they were given, probably contains a hidden file. And in this hidden file is the configuration file. So this is basically what a configuration file is. So this basically tells the media player how to load. So in this configuration setting, we're just doing the geometry at 1000 by 800 zoom, and which is what we missed yesterday because we saw like that player was malfunctioning, and Equivision doesn't malfunction like that. So if we looked yesterday, like how it was like scrolling over and hovering, and then it was just like very slow and popping up, and it was all preloaded. And I think it was preloaded because probably I've been on your show and I've been talking about the file types and I really wanted to know what file types they had. So they had it all preloaded this time. So they had all the files preloaded, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. They didn't click on it. They didn't bring it up. They had them all preloaded in this like looking Equivision looking player. But what they didn't put is a zoom yes. And the title, you know, they probably did the title Equivision. And then again, like the mouse input, yes. So like it looks like, you know, if I click on play or if I click on pause, it's gonna load like, you know, like again, like a working player. Does that make sense?
It does to me, but some people are having a hard time following it. Here's one. Lynn Math says, Mods, can we get a message to Mike to tell her to dumb it down, please? This is frustrating. So basically, I mean, what you're showing is that they could basically do fraud on the screen and they could kind of mask player. What they're actually showing, right?
It's basically like a fake player. They made a fake player with a fake exe and a fake .ps file. Like what I showed you was not Equivision. That is something that I literally I made it. It's like a mock-up. Think of like a website that's not done yet and somebody shows you something in Figma. It's basically like a Figma site, but in a player that you can load and play videos and make it look like it's something that it's not.
Got a couple more questions that came in. We'll answer a couple of them. Here's one. Hey, Mike or Abby, have you heard about the business that Colleen Crawford and Fanning had called Expert Data Analysis, a metadata-based business. Yeah, I saw that today. Kind of strange. What did you hear about that?
I did not. Can we pull that up?
It's on Twitter. We probably could find it.
What was it about specifically? That they just
I mean,
had a business together?
they had a company together called the Expert Data Analysis. Trooper Fanning and Colleen Crawford, the DA's tech or video expert there.
Interesting.
Ah,
Interesting. Because again, this is like, and again, I know that what I'm talking about is, which it sucks. It's not like easy to understand things, but like our previous shows when I was talking about how you would modify a .ps, like this is actually a lot easier. So what I just showed you was literally 2 little command scripts. So we have like that .bat script, this configuration file, and then all we did is use like one program to just change the icon. So think of it this way. If I had Windows like a Microsoft Word, right? And I brought Microsoft Word into a program which like I use the program to change the icons, especially the Acquisition, the actual like program, the another exe file. You can either use resource hacker, you can use again the advanced to bat script. And I could change the Microsoft Word icon to a cat if I wanted to. Because it basically just like wipes the image from Microsoft Word. So like when it loads and it will load on your, so you know how we saw the pre-screen load of Premiere, Photoshop, After Effects yesterday? What it would do would just change the icon. So if I open
masking
it
what
up,
it is. Yeah, by changing one thing, you're masking what it really is.
yeah, and so I'll just to dumb this down too, I'll get out of this and I'll just share my screen of like how I did. Actually, let's go into
The question that you might be able to answer to here. I
sure.
want to know about the camera you bought from Etsy. That's like a Sallyport camera. Does it record in reverse, inverted? Does it have that setting?
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing is so you can do 2 different types of settings. So in Access Companion, you can also again you can invert it in Access Companion. So you can invert it in the configurations of the camera, but you can also invert it in Equivision as well. So you have two different interfaces that you can invert the camera to. So you can't do that. And that's one thing that we have to put into perspective that again, when we're talking about flipping the video, I don't think it was naturally recording like that. I don't think it was. And based on what we saw in court, I don't think that was the natural recording. I think this was all kind of like engineered type of thing. So I see if this is gonna, can you see my screen? Or is it still loading? Oh, there we go. Okay. So when we're talking about breaking down this file of like how I did it. So basically what I did is I just took a regular video. So I don't know, it's being like really weird. All right, so if we turn some of these layers off, right? So I just basically, what I just went into After Effects and I just took a border. So if we turn off these other channels, this is a time code, so this is a separate layer. And then when we go back to, and this is the player itself. So what we're talking about here is I could put any video in this frame that I want. So we have, again, that's a separate time code. So I can like literally take this time code. I created this time code in After Effects. I exported it out as an alpha channel, which I can put this time code really anywhere like anywhere I want. I can move it up. I can move it down. I can move it like, again, I can move it over to the center. I can move it to like the top right. It really doesn't matter. I can move it anywhere I want. And then I can really put any picture I want. So when we're layering things, this right here, so this black screen is basically what I rendered out as an alpha channel. So I can put any video that I want in it. So if I want to do, like this video now we have the girl here. I could import a video of my cat in this and make it look legit. And as long as I play it in a fake player, so I can like make it look like a fake player in Equivision, I can edit it. I can make it like that little M player, again, because it's like an open source software. I can write custom code into that, and I can make custom buttons that will function and look like Equivision, even though it's not Equivision.
I mean, this is more of a reason why the defense needs the data. They need to be able to get data from video because all this, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically, so just think of like this player that I created that can make an exe. So if I was given files by the defense and I looked at an E player, because E player is technically like the proprietary name of the of the Equivision player, right? If I looked at this E player and I didn't know the functionality of it, and I was just popping up videos, and that's why I said even in my last Twitter post, make sure you check the player. The files, like if you click file, if you click view, if you click authenticate, because if these are native files that are playing in Equivision, there should not be an issue of going into Equivision, this E player, and just saying file authenticate. And I'll show you that too. It's a very simple thing that you can verify if the file is real, if it's legitimate, and it will have metadata behind it. So I'll share that screen. That'll be the last screen that I'll show, but you'll see exactly what I mean.
I need to comment on this comment. This is Mr. Beaglesworth says this channel blocks people and they say Bev is biased. The difference is this channel isn't a judge determining somebody's life. Our channel is not the state of Massachusetts determining whether someone gets freedom or not. And all in all, our mods do a great job. If you get blocked from this channel, you probably are a jerk. Like not a JURK, a real jerk, because the ladies that run our mods are the nicest people. They give people warnings. There must be something up with you, Mr. Beaglesworth. Go ahead, Abby. We're pretty good here. Like we don't like other channels are even much more strict than we are. Like we're not that strict. Our mods are pretty good. They don't.
I think your mods are wonderful. Like I said, I've always been one of like your number one fans. When I first even got on Twitter and I saw that you popped up on a show, I was like, oh, he's really good. I was a fan of your content since like day one. You do something bad. I mean, if you're gonna be a jerk, then
Yeah. If you're getting blocked by our crew, then there's probably a problem with you. Like Whitey's Ghost said, this channel blocks a-holes. I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, you really have to push it here. I don't know. I think our mods do a good job. I don't hear a lot of complaints. They're not over strict, but they don't let people be a menace. Like if there's a menace in the chat that people don't feel safe with, they get rid of them. That's just the way it goes. Should. Yeah. I love our mods. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Abby. You've got some more. You want to put this up?
Yeah, this last thing. So I just want to show you how the actual Equivision player. So again, when we just saw the last one, so the last video, I was just showing you again like a fake Equivision player. But this is actually the real Equivision player. And this Equivision player will allow you to, again, like, so if I want to go over here and I want to authenticate a file, this is how easy it is to authenticate a file. And it will not play, and I want to emphasize this, if it is not a proprietary file that was created by Equivision, this player will not play. And that's what we're seeing from the defense, is the defense is saying they do not have proprietary files, and their own experts said it. And this is how easy it is to authenticate a file. You literally have to go to File, Authenticate. Can you see that on screen?
Yes. Yep.
You can see how it says authenticated succeeded.
Yes, I can.
That's how easy it is to authenticate a file. And so this is the actual like authentication process of doing a file. So the fact that they have not used this one function, again, file, authenticate function in court, is perplexing to me.
That's sus. That's very suspect. Is beyond
It's
perplexing, right? It's
yeah. And so what I'm saying, when the defense looks at these files, if they do in fact have .exe files and and .ps files, they need to actually look at the drop-down menu, because you can code a player, like especially like an open source player like this, with a lot of different bells and whistles, but you're not gonna. I can't even see that on your screen. It's like I feel like it's not.
looking.
Yeah, it's not coming up. Oh, that's interesting. That must be like a little security feature. That's so fun. I mean, this shouldn't actually be fun, but hold on. Let me see if I can just post screenshots of it. That's wild. Huh. That's interesting. I never tried to authenticate it like live. That's so funny. Hold on one second. That is very odd. Did you see how it authenticated, or did that
I
not?
thought I did. Maybe I didn't. I thought I saw it.
Huh. Hold on one second. Let me just do this real quick. If you want to read off like any super chats, because I can actually just screen record it, maybe. That's actually that's an interesting security feature. I didn't realize that.
Boda Bob sent $5 and said, I loved it when Turtle Boy's attorney talked about the 37-page rubber ducky CPD report. I missed that. Was that yesterday or was that today? I'm wondering. I got a couple messages about that today because I am in that 37-page rubber ducky TPD report. They transcribed this show basically for that. I wonder. I didn't hear that. Was that yesterday or was that today?
For me?
No, I'm just asking the chat or whoever made that comment. Oh, Boda Bob. That's pretty much the super chats, though. Some other comments coming in. Everyone likes you.
Sorry, I'm having other that's really weird. I haven't seen that before. I think I have. Here we go. It should work.
Today or was that today?
Okay, so I'm gonna mute myself, but I'm gonna show.
I think it must have been yesterday because I didn't see it. Oh, that disappeared. It was there for a second, Abby, and now it's gone. Authenticate. I see it there. I think you're on mute right now.
Do you see where it says tools authenticate?
I saw authenticate at the top, like left.
Yep, right here.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's basically, this is like a real player. Apparently, you can't even stream it, which is like wild. I've never even seen that because I haven't tried to do this like with Equivision Player Live. But basically, this will be the process. So when we're talking about the Equivision Player, the media player, like if you wanted to authenticate a file, so if I click here and I just keep playing,
they transcribed this show basically for that. I wonder. I didn't hear that. Was that yesterday or was that today?
So do you see the authentication process of the metadata? Because the player authenticates itself with its own files. That's why they're proprietary files. Sorry, I recorded you at the same time with the thing,
I could
but
tell. I'm like, are you recording me?
I am. I was recording you for a second. I was trying to do it fast because apparently, like, you can't even, which is actually kind of cool security measure that you can't even, like, share it, like, at least like on the internet or whatever. But I just did a screen grab. So again, what I think happened is somebody just screen grabbed it. Again, like the DVR, NVR, they screen grabbed the DVR, NVR, made a video of it, put it in there. I did the same thing yesterday on Twitter. I grabbed this again from a screen capture with the original time code. So I used but the original time code, and then I also used, like, fake time code to show a little bit of the difference. But that's how you would basically do it. And if they're playing these files from Acquisition, all they have to do is do file authenticate. And not once has the prosecution authenticated the file or even clicked on the file open, because why are they preloading the files? They could literally just do open. So again, if I go back to, I think am I still in the Acquisition one? So if I go to like file right here, or I think I'm probably still in the. So if I go to like file up here and I can click open, import a file, I can do like multiple menu, functionalities of like the actual player itself. Not once have we seen that in court. We've never seen file close. We've never seen anything with the file. All we've seen is like them hit a play button, which again, you can, set these play buttons down here and, export them out as like PNGs, or you can even export them out and mask them out in a player console. So like kind of like that configuration file where it loads and it will say like play, rewind, fast forward. Does that make sense? So basically this is the real file, and the file I created that looks exactly the same layout. You wouldn't, I could put my cats in there. I could put Taylor Swift in there. I could put whoever I want in that frame, and I could encode it into an EXE and make it look legit. I could put a time code. I can sync that time code in animation. If I wanted to animate it, or if I just wanted to sync it up, I could put a time code down here. I could do anything I want with this player and make it look like Acquisition. And that's what I think they did the other day.
Wild that they have new time codes now in videos.
Yeah.
Different
colors, and it's in different fonts too. So like the fonts are different. And then even when they played it, so the interesting thing when Colleen pulled it up, and I posted a video about this on Twitter, is that all of these little like windows are preloaded. So she didn't have to click on any of the files. They were all preloaded. And then when she clicked on them, they started bugging out. And I think they started bugging out because she didn't put that, when we go back to that configuration file, she didn't put the zoom on it. So if you just configure it and you don't put like certain parameters, it can bug out. So if you're trying to click on play and you're clicking on fast forward or rewind, like, that's not a real file in general. So I think it was interesting the way the files were when the video player was popping up, where the mouse went, and how they were like populated when she was resizing them, because it looked like there was a missing script in there. That's why I think it was probably like a fakey player.
You should play some of them. I think I may have some of that up right now.
Yeah.
Oh, when Hank Brennan was speaking in the afternoon. Yeah, let's try that out. It'd be a little loud. Unless is there anything else that you didn't get to share so far that you want to bring up?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Let's play. Hold on, let me get it up. Yeah, I love when Hank Brennan brings up files.
I do too. They just says so much information.
There you go.
Existed before this case was even a moment. So with the court's permission, I'm going to ask to put up exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 2 shows the inverted camera.
Yeah, so right there, you see the Photoshop and the Premiere icons.
And stop that right there. So what are we looking at? On the bottom, right?
So, Yep. So you see the caption, that freeware caption program, which is like the little eye in the middle. And then you
Yep.
see the Premiere, the Photoshop file. You see the Premiere file, and there's only like about 2 seconds before that, which I won't make you go back to. But you can also see like After Effects in that little Bing. So it looks like it's remote sharing. I don't know. I don't think this is definitely not Hank's computer. This is their video expert's computer. This is not Hank's computer. No way in hell.
I wonder whose computer it is. Colleen Crawford, probably.
That's what I assume. So just go back a little bit, like if you can.
Hits the
I can-
Sallyport area. Ask to put up exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 2 shows the inverted.
Right
See
there. What
that?
are they clicking on? What are they clicking on there?
That's the fake I think that's the fake Equivision
Perfect,
player. See
What
how
is
it's
that?
preloaded?
Yeah.
From
And then watch when they click on it.
What is
She
that?
has a hard
What-
time like resizing. She has a hard time resizing it.
Ah,
And that's what it looks like when you don't put a sizing when we talk about those command configuration scripts, that's exactly how it will load. It will load like weird like
what was
that.
that? What was that? That little thing that they showed there. It's a couple screens.
Yeah.
Right again.
All clip of that to show this condition, these conditions existed before this case was even a moment. So with the court's permission, I'm going to ask to put up exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 2 shows the inverted camera from January 1st, 2022.
That.
Yeah.
Three
See
different
how it's
screens there.
Yep.
Now this
Now, what was that one?
Yep,
What
that's
was
the After Effects one.
Oh,
that's the remote one.
I
It looks
gotta
like she's
stop it.
connected to a
Can I
remote
stop it
server.
right? I want to see if I could stop it right
Perfect.
for the
for
After
the
Effects.
back wall and fuzzy for the front wall. And we have those, and we've turned those over to the defense. And I just want Your Honor to see a small clip of that to show this condition, these conditions existed before this case was even a moment. So with the court's permission, I'm going to ask to put up exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 2 shows the inverted camera from January 1st, 2022. Now,
Oh, I miss it every time. It happens so fast.
this is
I actually have it on Twitter where I
22
circled them.
You
So
do.
basically in that little pop-up
Yeah.
is an After Effects logo, which again confirms my thesis. So again, I created that frame. So we're talking about that player frame. I created that frame like as a border. I did a little bit of an alpha channel. So just think of this as like a picture frame that you would use in Meta or LinkedIn, where you would just like overlay the picture with it. That's basically what I did. I created it from like start to finish. So like I had the whole video run from, I don't know, like 1 minute to 5 minutes, and then kind of hit that time code like on the left. And if you really wanted to alter that time code, all you'd have to do is just match the yellow time code with that little player time code, and you'd be set. I mean, it's not hard to do. So when I think the harder theory that I was proposing before, which again is still valid. I mean, it could still be game, but I don't think it is because they don't have the proprietary files. And if they don't have a proprietary .ps or proprietary.exe, then the files that they have are cooked. And there's no way in hell they would be able to play these in Equivision. There's just not. If I renamed another MP4.ps file, Equivision will not open it because it is not a native file to the format. And even if I tried to open that format in a media player, it does not recognize the container. It would recognize the codec. If I replace the codec, it wouldn't play quite right, but it would play correctly in Equivision. So that's where we're saying that this is why I think this is the definite thing of that this is not a real player that we're seeing. This is a fake player. It's a fake player with a fake video, with a fake .ps and a fake .exe. And it's not hard to do. It's 3 scripts and 2 programs. And anybody at home can actually, I'll even post it on Twitter. Anybody at home can try out the code if they want to download the program and just follow like certain steps. They can do it with any video.
Hits the Sallyport area. Now you can see, if you stop that, please. Thank you very much. On that wall, on that garage wall, there's a 4. It is backwards. This Sallyport video was not doctored by Trooper Proctor. It wasn't altered by Trooper Buchanan.
So do you want to pause it for a second? So look at,
in existence.
so if you pause it, look at the lampshade. This is why I think it's AI generated.
Here's the lamp.
So do you see this?
Where am I looking for?
So do you see the top? If you go to the left at the very edge of the frame near the vehicle, like there's like this lampshade.
This thing.
There's.
It looks like a box maybe on the right above the car.
Yeah, there's a box right, but like right at the time code. There's some weird yellow streak right there. There's also this bike. This bike that, you know, again, kind of matches the bike in the background, which is like weird. But what's more weird is look at the side of the car where you see the snow.
It's strange.
It looks like snow.
Yeah.
It almost looks like there's a lot of things. So I looked at like the first original Sallyport and this image, and it's almost magical that there's a lot of elements in this scene that are very similar, almost like similar placement, the angles of the paper. I mean, this little folder here, like the folder edge is up a little bit more. But I mean, as far as like the placement of the dummy, the cone, there's a lot of different things in this image that really match the original Sallyport, but it just shifted a little bit. And then you look at the top of the car. So the very top of the car near the edge of the garage. See how smooth that looks? It almost blends in with the concrete. That doesn't look natural to me. There's no detail whatsoever. Not to mention even these objects. So all these objects are supposedly closest to the camera, right? But yet we see very little detail at all. Even with that little yellow streak that goes right into the time code, we see very little to limited detail there. I won't say, I would say I'm like 85% certain that this was possibly like AI generated a bit. These look like AI effects. Like it looks like AI like literally cluttered a bunch of objects together with a lot of objects that were still stagnant and looking in very similar placement in the scene and just kind of like scrunch them all up in a frame, which you can get if you've ever used OpenAI art. You'll get that if you're like, hey, change, you know, from an image, or there's other, you know, again, there's other like video graphic programs that you can use to do that too, where you can like generate small clips. And why did we see this whole clip play from start to finish? That's what I want to know. And you know why they didn't play from start to finish? Because it was trash. This is probably the only part of this video. I would be surprised. I don't know how long it lasts for, but I'm sure it's maybe a 10-second video. It seems very weird and out of place. What are your thoughts?
I mean, all of it seems weird to me.
Yeah. But where did this lampshade? I mean, it's almost like this lampshade is like the focus is weird, like the focus points, like the objects. I mean, I won't say it's AI like outright, like 'cause again, I can't really tell from a broadcast camera, like looking at, again, like a computer screen, but like this to me looks odd. This looks very out of it. It doesn't look right. Not to mention like the ISO is different. You know, looks like the ISO was like pumped up. So before, like we had a very even picture and now we're having like this really bright image. Like this is definitely, if it's not AI, it's definitely edited 100%.
Yeah. Enhanced somehow.
Well before Miss Reed's car showed up to that Sallyport. Similarly, front wall camera, could you please put on exhibit 3?
Wow, what is that?
See? You know what? We see this right here. Pause it.
It is.
Yeah. That
What are we
doesn't
looking
load like that.
Yeah.
That's a player. It's a player. Like you would have, like, again, she did exactly what I did. She renamed it ePlayer, not Acquisition. It doesn't function like it should. I would be very shocked. Actually, I'm not even going to say I'm shocked. I'm 100% certain. They said they don't have the proprietary files. The defense said they didn't have the proprietary files. The prosecution said they didn't have the proprietary files. Yet they're still playing it in Equivision. Equivision will only play proprietary files. I can't say it more like than 5 Ways Till Sunday, but like that's the thing. So if these files are not proprietary and they contain no metadata that is relevant, that will, again, which you pulled up before, which will authenticate. And again, an exe is probably more reliable to authenticate, like for Equivision, than maybe like a .ps. Again, I can alter a .ps. A .psx is a lot harder to alter because you have to make sure that the data pointer files in the container point to that specific. You have to make sure everything's very correct in that container. And if you change one thing that's not correct, it's not going to load. So like the exe, the .psx, harder to alter. PSX, probably you could do it. It would just take a lot more time. I don't think anybody in Norfolk County DA has a skill for that, though. Honestly, I think this player is pretty sloppy. I think this is how it was done. I don't think that it was, again, because if they don't have the proprietary files and their expert, the defense expert, said they didn't have the proprietary files, then this, at the end of the day, is just not real. Like, it's not real. Because you can't play unreal files in Equivision.
You have to go at 7, right? I think we're past 7, fortunately. Or
Yes, I do
6:59,
have to
6:59.
go, but I'll be on Lacey Jane's show. But thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
Hopefully I
great
didn't
night.
confuse too many people. Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you, Abby. All right, we're gonna play some more video. And maybe take some calls, a couple calls, maybe. If anyone wants to call in. 1 second. Thank you, Abby, for being here tonight. How you doing? Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna play a little more of this. This is so good today. If anyone wants to call, I kept seeing someone was saying something about Carolina wanted to make a comment or something. I didn't see it. I don't know. He can call in if he wants. You're not. Oh, wait. You're not going through. I'm gonna try that again. Okay, it went through. I'm gonna play a little more of this. Maybe go back to Alan
Exhibit
Jackson
3
too.
is from January 28, 2022, a day before Miss Reed's vehicle makes it to the Sallyport. And you can see the quality. It wasn't distorted on purpose. It wasn't manipulation by the state police. This is the way the camera worked in Canton. Thank you very much. And so the idea of tampering, we can claim it, we can assert it without fact, but we can prove it did not happen.
Prove it then, Hank. Prove it. Wait, Hank, stop talking shit and actually prove it. You have an opportunity to prove it. Give them what they want. Give them the data. You're so full of shit, dude. Shut the. I'm losing my. Oh my god. I got so excited, my lights are falling down. Oh my god. I got so excited, my lights fell down. Seriously, though, prove it. Prove it. Prove it, Hank. He's so mad, but he won't prove it. Did you guys see the comment I made with the call-in? I don't know if that went through. I'm getting a weird error message. All right, let's play some more. I bumped into the dog too, trying to save the lights.
What we know is that missing taillight was not tampered with because it was gone hours before police even touched Miss Reed's vehicle.
Boy.
At 5:08 a.m., she left Meadows Road. That's John O'Keefe's home. And when she left at 5:08 a.m., that taillight part was already missing. If we look at Exhibit 6, please. This is from the Ring video of John O'Keefe's home. This evidence directly contradicts the idea that the Sallyport video is relevant to show any break or planting of evidence. As Miss Reed nudges into Mr. O'Keefe's car, she will pull forward and we'll stop the video in 2 spots so you can get a clear look of that rear tail light missing. Forward, please. Thank you. And then ahead one more. You can see the white light shine. Stop. You can see it clearly missing. You can't plant something that's already gone. And the reason why you see white, it is a red taillight cover, and when the red is missing or gone, as it is in this case, the white bulb still shines, and that's why it shines white. The defense position is also contradicted by the ARCA witnesses. If we look at Dr. Wolf's testimony, day 31 of trial, it's noted as Exhibit 10 in our package, page 36. ADA Lally asks the good doctor, now doctor, in the course of your analysis or review of materials here, were you ever provided with a video of the defendant backing out a garage and making contact with Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle in his driveway at about 5:07 in the morning on January 29th? He says, I'm not aware of that. And then if we move to page 124, line 1. Now, line 2. Now, as far as you're aware from the review and your testing and everything that you did in this case, if a collision occurred at a lower speed, say 1, 2, anywhere from 0 to 5 miles an hour, would that create the damage to the taillight that you observed in this particular case? And Dr. Wolf says, at that speed, no. We provided notice of our own expert. And there's one thing, many things, but one critical thing the experts will all agree on. That nudging did not cause the damage to that taillight. The defense position is also contradicted by dash cam footage. Sadly, an officer went to the O'Keefe home to check on his niece and nephew on that tragic day. And when he did, he had a dash cam video further reinforcing that that taillight is missing well before that vehicle makes it to the Sallyport area. If we could play Exhibit 7, which is the dash cam footage showing Mr. O'Keefe's car in his driveway at 8:22 a.m. If you could close up to the court, please. If you compare the right side to the left side.
What is that?
Although covered and impacted by snow, if you could close more close up, please.
Close that, please. Close that out, Hanky. Close it out, Hanky.
Just like the 508 Ring video shows,
Let's.
is missing.
I think that is so bizarre. Let's bring that
to
back
the
a little.
O'Keefe home to check on his niece and nephew on that tragic day. And when he did, he had a dash cam video further reinforcing that that taillight is missing well before that vehicle makes it to the Sallyport area. If we could play Exhibit 7, which is the dash cam footage showing Mr. O'Keefe's car in his driveway.
I'll try to catch where that file said, but.
At 8:22 a.m. If you could close.
Look, she's enlarging it.
Up to the court, please.
Edit your images using AI. That's weird. It's so weird.
If you compare the right side to the left side, although covered and impacted by snow, if you could more close up, please, you can see that taillight, just like the detective from Dayton said, just like the 508 ring video shows, is missing.
No, wait. Lie. Another lie. The Dayton cop never said the taillight was missing. He said it was slightly cracked. Right? Weren't those his exact words? Slightly cracked? He didn't say there was anything missing from it. Guy's so full of it.
Is missing. There's no plant. The defense's position is also contradicted by the alarm.com video that we received pursuant to Rule 17. There are two videos, 8 and 9. If we could play Exhibit 8, please. This is the defendant's car arriving in Dayton in the driveway. The defendant on the passenger side, and you can see them walk to the back of the car near the right taillight and stop. And if the question is, what are they stopping for? We can play video 9. And this is when the car is being put on the tow truck before it makes its canting. And just like 508 in the driveway of Meadows, John O'Keefe's home, you will see that right taillight shine white, showing the missing taillight cover on 2 occasions. If you have an opportunity to stop the video at the important points, please do so.
Can you lower it?
You cannot.
Can you zoom in on it?
Your Honor, I would encourage the parties to look at it on the computer. The clarity is much better, and it's very clear.
I'm looking at the computer. It's not very clear. It's not
So will
very
you
clear.
give me a flash drive of all of these exhibits?
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
If you look at it on a small screen, see right there?
I do see it.
Yeah, and then you'll
What
see
does
it
she
again.
see? What does she see?
So the alarm.com video contradicts the defendant's position that there is anything exculpatory about these Sallyport videos. In fact, this whole idea of third party or plan doesn't come to town until 9 months after.
I want to know what the friggin' judge sees. She says, I see it. What do you see, Bev? I see you're being prejudicial again. Prejudice. Well, you have, Bev. What do you see, Bev? Spit it out. Bias, Bev. I see it. I see it.
Ms. Reed is indicted. Perhaps the best evidence
I see a
that
judge that
contradicts
wants
the
to see
defense's
shit.
position that there's
She wants to help this prosecution out. It's so obvious.
any relevance to the Sallyport video, that there's any type of plant by anybody, is from the defendant herself. Ms. Reed spoke to Gretchen Voss on June 20th, 2023. And in that testimony, or in that interview, she said, when my car was seized, there was a few small pieces of taillight missing that I had picked out at John's at 5:45 before we drove over to Fairview. I'm showing Jen and Kerry, look what I just did to my light. And I'm worried that there's gonna be some kind of electric short circuit. There's like the bulb is showing and some of the red plastic is missing. So I picked pieces out of the light housing that kind of collapsed within the light and dropped them in John's driveway. And so I say to the court, the production should have been sooner. It should have been cleaner. This should have been a log or an entry. The failure to provide was inadvertent. It was unfortunate. It
Inadvertent.
shouldn't happen.
It was
But it's not
inadvertent.
Brady.
It wasn't Brady. It's inadvertent. Everything's inadvertent. Everything's just a mistake. Misspelled all the names. Didn't go into the house. It's all inadvertent. Didn't take any pictures when the car got towed. All inadvertent. Shut the hell up, dude. You are such a friggin' liar. You are seriously, such a dirtbag. I don't care how much money they're paying you, dude. You've sold your soul. You've sold your soul, dude. You are so power hungry, Hank. You want Morrissey's blessing to be DA. You want that cash too, don't you, buddy? What you want, Hank?
It's not exculpatory. It's not intentional. It's not tampered with. It was inadvertent and inconsequential because the evidence
Inconsequential
overwhelming
because I
that
say
that light
so.
is
Because I say so. It's inconsequential because I say so. Because I'm getting paid a lot of friggin' money. I'm making a lot of money, Bev. Do you get it? It's funny how they call us grifters. This fucking guy is a grifter. He is the biggest friggin' grifter. How much money he's making on this? Poor Adam Lally sitting there making no money, peanuts, Adam. You gotta report to your job for the rest of your life. And this guy is making making your money in a couple months, what you takes you a couple years to make, Adam Lally.
missing before the car makes it to the foot of the Sallyport, so there can be no claim. That is my argument regarding the Rule 14 issue. I would like to have time to speak about the claim of jury tampering. I understand the temperament of the court. I'm not tone deaf, but it is a claim that was lodged that has collateral consequence. And I think it's important for me to be able to address it.
Yeah,
May I?
collateral
Yes.
consequences. What are the collateral consequences, Hank, of somebody who is an investigator in the crime, who's the guy who snitches out the juror? And you guys say, "Oh, nothing to see, nothing to see." It's like you guys get caught with your hand in the cookie jar over and over and over again, but it's inconsequential. There's nothing to see. Bias Bev is going to protect us.
The claim of jury tampering is probably one of the most serious claims that one can make because it's not simply an attack on a case. It questions the fabric of our entire judicial system. If
You guys should have thought about that before you frame Karen Reed, you jackasses. What do you think is ruining the fabric of the judicial system? It's because you frame an innocent person.
a good juror comes to court and believes there is no integrity in the court,
There is no
or in the
integrity.
judicial system,
You have no integrity. None.
isn't-
Zero. Zilch. Negative. Negative.
possible for a fair-minded juror to even consider evidence because they do not trust the system to begin with. And if a government actor or a trooper or a police officer tampered with a jury, that would be one of the biggest, most abhorrent transgressions that could happen because of the collateral consequence of tampering with the jury. It would take away the community's belief in our system. On the other hand,
You think we have any community belief in the system right now, jackass? None. Zero. Zilch. You're part of the reason why, Hank Brennan. You said that you were going to be honest on this. You haven't been honest. You're full of shit, dude.
if there is a claim of jury tampering and it's baseless and there is no evidence, it is not only a direct attack on the judicial system, it would seem to be an effort to try to undermine the authority of the system in court before a trial to impede the ability to have a fair trial. It is an extraordinary claim. And it's notable, the defense motion dismiss is not just a motion to dismiss, it's a motion to dismiss for extraordinary government misconduct. So when you make an extraordinary claim about jury tampering, there should be extraordinary evidence. There isn't even ordinary evidence. There is no evidence of jury tampering in this case. Now,
Says that, but one of the chief investigators that interviewed witnesses, the person who was Michael Proctor's supervisor, was the one who sent the tip to get the juror removed. So right there, that should be enough. That should be enough. That is inappropriate. That is inappropriate. If there was really something going on with that juror, maybe he should have handed it off to somebody else that wasn't connected to the case. That's simple.
I don't want to belabor this, but it's important because of the consequence of what happens when a claim like this is lodged. There is damage. And why I'd rather sit down, as I said before, a lie unchecked becomes the truth. And so how does one propagate a claim of jury tampering when there's no evidence? Well, first you need to plant the seed of corruption. And all you have to do is whisper it and hope the poison goes out there and is resonating in the potential community. And so what happens in this case? The defense finds a willing partner who covets an opportunity to meet with the defendant. They find a time, like after the Super Bowl, so there's this national exposure, and they just seep the information. They just seep it into the public and let it resonate. There can be no retort. The government can't respond. No facts, no evidence. Just saturate the public. Now, it's important.
Like you're doing, this guy's been
important
saturating the public with bullshit
to
for
see
weeks.
or
Hank, everything that you project is exactly what you're doing. The whole point of there is no federal investigation, and why you leaked it to your little friends like Kevin and Kate and all them before it even happened, right? Right? That's exactly what you've been doing. Everything that you project, you are actually doing. You are trying to taint the jury. You're talking to the jury right now.
hear or read what is said. Because this really is the acorn that is being planted that cannot be rebutted. And it's not insignificant that this same information before this interview is being disseminated by Mr. Kearney. This idea that there was tampering by Lieutenant Fanning. Not a coincidence. And so during this interview that the defendant and the attorney have, the question's asked, I don't know why it's asked, but it's asked. There have been sort of these unsubstantiated claims in the atmosphere that there might have been some funny business with the jurors who were dismissed. Really? And Mr. Jackson says, right. The question, is this a real concern that you have? Is this something that you were looking at, or have you just dismissed it as a rumor? Answer, I never just dismissed that as rumor. Something like that, it's too convenient for the prosecution for us to just dismiss out of hand. Do I have any evidence, specific evidence that there was jury tampering? I don't have any specific evidence of it. And yet we have a motion filed 2 weeks later. Do I think there are questions that should be asked? Do I think that there are questions that have been raised about the way the jurors were dismissed and who was dismissed very specifically? And then it continues on page 13 of the transcript. Question, one of the state troopers who was involved with the Norfolk DA's office and on the periphery of the investigation was also responsible for the jury? Not sure where these questions come from. Answer, right. He wasn't that far on the periphery of the investigation. He was involved in the investigation. He was direct supervisor over the individuals that were testifying and over and about whom we had leveled some very, very serious claims and ended up proving those claims during the course of direct and cross-examination in the presentation of our case. That person, that supervisor, we found out well into trial. As a matter of fact, at the end of the trial, we found out is the very person who was governing the jurors. That's a question that should be raised. That is an issue that should be teased out. Should never, ever happen. That is the very definition of a conflict of interest. Question, is that standard in Massachusetts for just the DA's office to assign whoever they want to be sort of, supervisor of the jury? Yeah. Is it standard in Massachusetts? I hope not. Never seen that in my life. But if I had a nickel for every time I said I've never seen this type in my life as it pertains to the Massachusetts justice system, the criminal justice system, I'd have a lot of nickels.
So I didn't see that interview. I don't have the transcript. I'd like a copy of that transcript.
Your Honor, I understand, I may be mistaken. We produced all of the exhibits to the court, and you should have a transcript. If not, I will get it to you immediately.
Okay.
Okay. So after step one, finding a vehicle to plant the seed, and they did that very effectively. The next step is they have to identify a target. Who are they going to blame? Who's going to be the villain? In this case, a villain goes from anybody that gets in the way. It could be a soccer mom. It could be a police officer. It could be a good Samaritan. Anybody that crosses the path is a target. And now they decided they were going to identify Lieutenant Fanning. Lieutenant Fanning is one of the most conscientious, dedicated, admired state police officers in Massachusetts.
Admired. After he missed all those text messages for Sandra Birchmore and Matthew Farwell? Really? He's admired. He's very admired. By who? Who admires this guy at this point? Who? Name a person who admires him. Show us a poll statistic. I mean, you can just make up anything, right? He's one of the most respected people in all of Massachusetts. Like Hank Brennan he should be on Mount Rushmore, Hank Brennan.
After having his name attempted to be sullied all over social media, attacking his integrity and his...
I think his name got sullied and his integrity got pretty dinged up on the Sandra Birchmore stuff, bro. When he went and told Cullinane and Minahane that there was nothing to the Sandra Birchmore. He went on that podcast. Remember that, Hank Brennan, the Case podcast? How did that turn out? Brother? You don't mention it. Why aren't you mentioning the Case podcast? Because that's when I heard Lieutenant Fanning's name for the first time, and it wasn't good.
His name. I can dare say that Lieutenant Fanning is in a different position than many. His integrity is so reputable.
No, it's not, dude. His integrity is so questionable. Leave out Karen Reed. Don't pretend Karen Reed doesn't even exist. Just on Sandra Birchmore. His integrity is in question, dude. You are a friggin' liar. Say her name. Say the Case podcast. Say Sandra Birchmore's name. I dare you, Hank Brennan. You're so full of shit.
Or his reputation. But it happened. When you look at the motion filed by the defense in this case, and they found their target in Lieutenant Fanning.
Why? Why do you think nobody trusts Fanning, dude? Why? It's Sandra Birchmore, dude. It's the feds. Wake up. Stop lying. We're so sick of your friggin' lies. You get up there. We're paying you to friggin' lie to us. Stop it.
It's important when they made this public pleading, getting back to my request for your honor the other day. You look at the bottom of page 15.
Whiny little puke. You are such a whiny puke.
It talks about Lieutenant Fanning and tries to align him or associate him with Trooper Proctor because Trooper Proctor's text message was on a chain that included Lieutenant Fanning. Lieutenant Fanning did not reprimand or otherwise correct his subordinate's disgusting and inappropriate behavior. As a result, he was investigated by the Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability for allegations of inappropriate correspondence between department members. True. But then they leave off the punchline. They put this in a public document. They try to smear him, degrade, demean, dehumanize. But what they leave out is that after this thorough investigation by the Office of Professional Accountability, where they took strong measures, very
Very strong measures. Michael Proctor still hasn't been fired. Come on, dude. They took no strong measures. It's the biggest cover up ever. This guy did nothing about Michael Proctor's text messages. I forgot all about that. That's not even the reason that people have such questions about Fanning. It's all Sandra Birchmore, dude. You didn't mention that, did you? Did you? His stellar reputation.
Very strong measures when they found something that they were not in agreement with. They concluded that these complaints were not sustained.
So we were all aware of that. I received verification of that through the police.
Not sustained by who? By the state police. Come on.
Council was all
Come
aware
on,
of that.
dude.
I just need the date.
That's like a politician and investigating themselves. Come on. Get the hell out of here with that.
When was he cleared? When was that made public?
We'll have to provide that to you.
Was it prior to this? Was it prior to the motion being filed?
Yes, it was.
Ev is so out to lunch too. She acts like this shit is important. Like, come on, lady. Wake up.
Last fall. I can provide the date right now.
Okay.
Trooper Lieutenant Fanning is not in a unique position.
If I may, Your Honor, sorry. It was July 17th, 2024.
He is similarly situated to the many first responders and witnesses in this case. And then, without any basis, the defense then distorts that Lieutenant Fanning was in charge of juror security. He had control of the jury, and he had access to the jury. Think about what those statements say to our community, who are going to pile in here in less than a month to try to give a fair trial to both sides. Think about what those words mean. After selecting their target and trying to dehumanize him and degrade him, they then try to create an illusion of this grandiose havoc that is running amok.
It's admired by all the crooked cops, no doubt about it. That's a good point.
Trying
That's who
to
admires
get
them.
the community to think Trooper Fanning controlled, had access, and tampered with the jury. Think about that concept. Not only is it an attack on Lieutenant Fanning, it is an attack on the integrity of the trial court. I've walked a lot of hallways in the trial courts over the past 30 years. And the heartbeat of trial courts is the court officers who take their duty so seriously. They help, they assist, they guide, and they have solemn pledges. They are charged with the responsibility of the jury. To suggest this is to suggest that the hardworking men and women in our trial court system who come here every day for everybody else's benefit, it is to suggest that they would cede their authority to the state police and abscond from their duty and responsibility to protect that jury with no basis whatsoever. That is the concept that they are promoting in this motion. The trial court personnel throughout the state are steadfast and dedicated. I've tried a lot of cases, and I think most of the lawyers in here have. It is without a doubt in Massachusetts that these dutiful men and women of the trial court protect and are sworn at the end of every case in jury instructions to protect the jury. And these trial court employees, especially here in Dedham, some of the finest, would never abscond that duty. And yet it is now in the public domain, this suggestion. The only way that you dispel innuendo, suggestiveness, unsupported claims, and the poison that can seep into the community, the only way you can stop that is with fact. So I'm going to list a few facts for the record. Fact: Lieutenant Fanning was not in charge of juror security. Fact: Lieutenant Fanning did not have control of the jury. Fact: Lieutenant Fanning did not access the jury. Fact: Lieutenant Fanning was part of a multi-agency cooperative effort to ensure the safety of the public and court participants which required numerous local police officers and state police.
Oh, wait, you put somebody on the security of the jury who was part of the investigation for the state against Karen Reed. Someone who was a supervisor of Michael Proctor and Mr. Tully, a coworker of Mr. Tully. I mean, this is just outrageous. I don't care what you say, how you try to cover it up. That's what you did. You just admitted it. You just admitted it. He was part of it.
Because of the bedlam that was created outside.
Oh, it's our fault. It's the public. The public, because they showed up. We had to do we had to do jury tampering. Their fault. I mean, are you shitting me, dude?
Lieutenant Fanning never, ever, ever met with or interacted with any juror. Fact, at all times, Lieutenant Fanning worked from a remote location, jointly managing operations for the safety of the public. Never setting foot on this property when the jury was here. Never meeting a juror, never looking at a juror, never being seen by a juror. Fact, no evidence any trial court personnel ever ceded their obligations and duty and handed them off to Lieutenant Fanning. Fact, Lieutenant Fanning heard numerous rumors from various sources about a juror who expressed potential bias. Fact, Trooper Fanning never investigated, approached, or inquired. He heard the information and provided it to the trial court as is responsible, dutiful, and proper.
That's curious. Funny how that happens. People just happen to tell Lieutenant Fanning. He happened to hear the rumors about the juror, even though he's never been there, never seen the juror. People are just calling him up. People are just saying, "Hey, did you hear about that juror?" It's funny. I go live night after night over this. Nobody calls me about the juror. Somebody's calling him. Somebody that has no access to. I mean, does that make sense to you? That doesn't make sense to me. Out of all the people, they're going to call one of the chief investigators. Please, if someone really had an issue with a juror, wouldn't they call the court? But they call Fanning. Do you believe that? I don't. That does not smell this. Your fish smells rotten.
And I'll repeat one more time, Lieutenant Fanning never, ever, ever interacted, controlled, or met with any juror. Your Honor, these claims in the motion to dismiss have a theme. Different issues, same theme, same pattern, same effort. Your Honor should dismiss it outright.
Bev is low IQ. She doesn't understand how things work. She really doesn't understand. I swear to God, this lady is one of the dumbest judges I've ever seen in my life. Seriously. If you call Beverly Canone on the cell phone and tell her that she needs to pay some extra fee to get her Microsoft Windows back, I have a feeling she's going to give you the money. I mean, she is not a bright person. Sorry.
If I may, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you.
He's corrupt, not dumb. Probably both. I don't know. I don't know. I'll go back and forth, man. She just takes it for the word every time. Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
going to address in reverse order some of the statements made by Mr. Brennan. And I want to talk first about this issue of juror interference, which is what we called it. These words matter. We claim that there's interference. He indicates that that would be an abhorrent transgression if there were interference with a juror or a jury. We agree. It would be an abhorrent transgression. The information that we have in front of us is not the information that Mr. Brennan just.
Exactly. This is what I want to know. Gave him the info. Gave it the info. Did he call? Did he get a phone call? Like, come on. What's really going on here? Really?
Recited. which is
I'm gonna step out for 1 minute. I'm gonna let the dog out. I'll be back in a minute. But I'm gonna keep playing the video.
interesting. I'll get to the facts that he very dramatically stated in just a second. Because this is a fact-based inquiry, one that we asked for standing right over there at Sidebar and didn't get. But Mr. Brennan, with no support to back it up, and I'm going to ask a couple of pointed questions about that, recites these facts after facts after facts that he claimed absolved the Commonwealth of any transgression as it pertains to the jurors. And when I say Commonwealth, I'm talking about the Massachusetts State Police. Very clearly, in a clever, almost too cute by half argument, Mr. Brennan talks about the good court officers populating this courtroom and this courthouse, about whom we have made no allegation, no claim, nothing. We have nothing but the highest respect and regard for the men and women who wear that uniform and perform these duties. None, zero. And he knows that. But in an effort to create an enemy where there isn't one, he acts like we've insulted the court officers, which we haven't. He also said that Lieutenant Fanning, when he stood up here and gave basically a CV, a resume for him, and said, the greatest guy on the face of the earth. I don't know Lieutenant Fanning. I don't know if he knows Lieutenant Fanning. Not really the point. It's in the personality contest. He said that we identified somebody with an unassailable reputation. We identified him. We didn't identify anybody. We were standing up at Sidebar, fat, dumb, and happy, not knowing what was going to happen when somebody else identified him. Wasn't us. And by the way, everything that we filed concerning this was under seal. We didn't disclose anything in any court document. It wasn't a public document, it was under seal. Mr. Brennan then states that he was also a subject, this person with this unassailed career, was the subject of an IA investigation for his conduct on this case. It's not even about something tangential. It's about his conduct on this case, his supervisory role as it pertains to Michael Proctor and his, and I'll repeat it, disgusting conduct as it relates to my client and his text messages, etc. When he was asked about those text messages, his claim was, I was on vacation and I didn't read them. And ultimately, the Massachusetts State Police investigation cleared the Massachusetts State Police officer. We've seen that happen before. The question, or questions, if I could, that surround this inquiry, and the reason that we included it in our motion to dismiss is because it appears that Ms. Reed did not get a fair trial because of this juror's dismissal. How would the person who's unidentified, to this day, unidentified, how would this person know who the juror sitting in one of these seats was if she was at a private location? I won't mention the location. How would they know? How would they know to identify her? How would they know what she said? How would they know to record her illegally, potentially, if that happened? How would they know these things? How would they know that if she was a juror, that she was a juror on the Commonwealth versus Reed matter specifically? And how would this unidentified person know of all of the authority figures to go to Lieutenant Fanning, of all people, who was then described to us after the fact as the, quote, commander of the extensive security operations that this case has required. And I went through that with the court this morning, but I just want to reiterate it one more time. Of course, it makes perfect sense that we would presume that if he's the commander, I don't think it gets much bigger than commander. If he's the commander of all security operations, he's the commander over operations that are attendant to the courts, the actual courts security, the personnel security, the parties' security to whatever degree that is necessitated, but maybe most importantly, the jurors' security. That is a reasonable next step to conclude, a reasonable inference from the facts that we were given. But we do know this. He was this same Fanning that was just randomly picked to go report this to, was also the person that was in Miss Reed's house seizing her phone just months before the trial. He's also the person that was interviewing witnesses or supervising the interviews of witnesses in this trial. He was also the person that was on the text messages between Proctor and his buddies at MSP talking about her and trying to find nudes. We know all of that existed. And yet we were denied an opportunity, Your Honor, an important opportunity to simply inquire before this juror was dismissed. That's all we asked. Let's get Lieutenant Fanning in here. Let's find out what the source of this is, and let's figure out, is it even remotely true? Remember, the juror never said it was true. But lo and behold, minutes before I stood up to give my submission.
Jackson wants to know, is this true? And you could see this judge is going to cover for her people. You could see it.
That juror's removed. That's the problem. This isn't about court officers and besmirching court officers' reputations. That's not what this is about. This is about what happened at sidebar in the matter of minutes that denied Ms. Reed her constitutional right. There's a couple of other points that I just want to make.
And it just happened to be one of the jurors that every single journalist that entered the court for the trial noted that juror seemed like she was very pro Alan Jackson. Just a coincidence, just another coincidence, right? No, nothing to see here.
Mr. Brennan started his comments by talking about the Sallyport video and how unimportant it is. How unimportant that video is. I'm not going to go through all my points again. The court doesn't need to do that. But I do want to make this point. He says it's not important. There was nothing to see here. We don't pull videos normally. Yeah, of course you don't pull Sallyport videos if you're investigating a bar fight. This was the purported murder weapon. This truck is the thing that
We got at least one person that's in Sharon. I'm gonna post it. People are asking for the link. We're just doing StreamYard calls tonight. We're not taking any no phone number. You don't have to dial overseas if you're an international caller. You can just jump in with StreamYard. Sharon is in the green room, the backstage area, but Sharon, you would have to turn on your audio for me to put you up on the screen here. So Sharon, if you do want to speak to us, definitely turn on your audio and we'll bring you up. All right, let me go back to the video.
Commonwealth suggests was used to kill a cop. You think the video of it being pulled into the Sallyport might be of some evidentiary value? I don't know. Can't imagine why that would be important. Can't imagine why that might have some evidentiary materiality. But I do know this. I do know this much. One guy who thought it was important, the lead investigator, he pulled it all of it. He was super, super convinced it was important. And he's the guy that once pulled it hid it from us for nearly 3 years. Mr. Brennan spent some time talking about the difference between cracked and missing.
So you guys can't see me right now on the screen. That's weird because I show myself on the screen. That is weird. I'm gonna remove myself and bring myself. Do you see me now? You see me now? I'm on the screen. It's weird. You do see me. Okay. Weird. StreamYard must be acting up.
Interesting point. Now, I'm not going to go through a bunch of videos and audios, but the court has seen all the pictures and photographs that it needs to see, and the court has a very, very good memory.
All right, we got a call. I'm gonna bring up this call. Oh no, they disappeared right when I was gonna bring them up, Jima. Jima, if you want to get up here, I was gonna put you on the screen. I think you just popped out. All right. We won't bring you
We've
up.
never, ever disputed that the light was cracked at 5:07 or so a.m. That's how it got cracked, is the point. It got cracked on that traverse. And a piece was missing. A piece was missing. Not according to me, according to another agency's sergeant, Barros, who said a piece was missing, but it wasn't completely damaged. Recall that when that light was completely reconstructed with the 46, 47 pieces that were purportedly found, well, they were found at or near 34 Fairview, and then they were reconstructed. Does the court recall what that reconstruction looked like? That taillight was put together almost in its entirety, almost, except a piece was still missing. There was a piece unaccounted for. It's a big difference between a crack and the condition of that taillight, which we've now seen, where literally the entire lens material is basically gone. There's a few shards left on some edges, but the entire lens is basically gone.
We're gonna be covering Susan Harrington's campaign this Saturday night. Rita Lombardi is supposed to be here on the show on Saturday night. We're gonna be talking about Susan Harrington and looking forward to that candidate forum at the Canton Library. Susan Harrington versus John Conley on March 10th. Looking forward to that. Saturday night, Rita Lombardi here on the Young Jerks.
So yeah, it's relevant. And it's exculpatory. The condition of that light when it pulled into the Sallyport driveway. And with regard to the inverted video, again, Mr. Brennan says there's nothing to see here. We've got inverted videos dating back days earlier. Then why, if that's such common knowledge, then why did Mr. Lally and Sergeant Buchnick in front of a jury present that video as a true and correct presentation of what that car looked like and where that car was? Mr. Lally actually asked the question. I don't have a page in sight now, but I remember it because I was sitting here. He asked the question, did you see Mr. Proctor? It was something, I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of, did either you or Trooper Proctor approach that right passenger taillight? And the answer was no. Because on the video that was being played, it looked like the right passenger taillight was the one closest to the jury. And of course, Trooper Proctor walked right around that and went over to the other taillight. Except when you reverse it, you realize that's the right taillight.
Is there a copy of the reverse, the one that you played? Is that in the exhibits for today's motion?
No. The one that's been corrected?
Yes. I'd like a copy of
I
that.
don't think I have. Sure. We can get that for the court immediately. Also, he played a video of the grainy video showing, hey, look, some of these cameras are just grainy in other particulars as well at other times and places. Maybe, or maybe not. What's interesting is the grainy video that we saw, if my memory serves me, and it's my memory and it's being taxed at this point, but my memory is the chyron on that video, in other words, the running numbers, was at the bottom. That video he just played is at the top. That's the exact same video. If it's apples and apples, oranges and oranges. Why is that different? That's interesting. And with regard to Ms. Reed's actual statements in that interview that was played, or I'm sorry, it wasn't played, it was recited. She said, some of the red plastic is missing. Some of the red plastic is missing. In other words, a piece is missing. It's completely consistent with the condition of that taillight before it was at the Sallyport. With regard to the facts that were recited by Mr. Brennan at the very end, every one of those is unsubstantiated. How does he know all that information? Who has he been talking to? And why don't we know about it? If in furtherance of this motion, there was an interview done of Lieutenant Fanning that laid out all of this information about not having contact with jurors and not doing this and not doing that, but yes, doing this and that and the other thing, why is the first time I'm hearing about this when he stands up and tells us? That has been the pattern of this Commonwealth's presentation to this court and in front of the jury consistently. That is the punctuation mark at the end of the sentence. Why am I just now getting that? Why wasn't that appended to his motion? Was there a conversation Mr. Brennan had with Lieutenant Fanning that we need to know about?
Yeah, where's the affidavit on that? Where's
This
the
is
affidavit?
exactly why.
How come this guy never has any affidavits? He just claims shit in court. You ever notice that? Good point. How come that's just disclosed now?
Your Honor, exactly why. If this court is not inclined to dismiss this case, and it should, the maladies of the Brady concerning the Brady violations and the discovery violations are so manifold in this case. They cannot, it's irremediable harm. Irremediable harm. This case should be dismissed because of the conduct of the Commonwealth, including Michael Proctor holding onto his videos, hiding those videos, and then others involved with strategizing how to use the videos against us, against the defense, in a murder trial without our knowledge and without giving us the videos. But if the court, in the face of all this, determines that it's either unconvinced at this juncture to dismiss this case, then we urge the court to have an evidentiary hearing. That's what this demands at the very least. An evidentiary hearing so that the court can perfect the record. We shouldn't be guessing at things. And I'll submit.
Any follow-up, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Ms. Giannetti,
Nothing.
do you
I'm,
want to say something?
I'm
I
not
don't
gonna.
think I need to. In
I'm not going to respond about the fact that I don't have an affidavit or where this information comes from. I'm just done. Hank Brennan is done.
light of that presentation, Your Honor.
All right. I know you want to do your motion, Mr. Alessi. I cannot imagine.
I want to go back to when Jackson was speaking earlier too. Here we go. Let's play some of this too.
To deceive the court. When in point of fact, the Commonwealth well knows that that altered video was altered by them in some way, shape, form, or fashion. When it was played inverted. What we did is recorrect it to the proper orientation to confront Sergeant Buchnick with it. They indicate that they played the entirety of the video, of the corrected video, to somehow suggest that the Commonwealth during this debacle had clean hands. And that's just not true. Over the course of 2 days, the court will recall 2 days worth of testimony. Day one with Sergeant Buchnick under direct examination by Mr. Lally, going into the next day, still under direct examination by Mr. Lally. They played that video completely inverted. They talked about it, they discussed it, they described it. Not once did Sergeant Buchanan or Mr. Lally inform the jurors or the court that the video was actually altered, that the video was actually backward. Not one hint to the court or the jury members. When the defense stood up and began questioning Sergeant Buchanan about that video, that was the first time that he admitted that it was inverted. He used the phrase mirror image, and that he knew that it was inverted. Amazingly, that was the same time that Sergeant Buchanan started having trouble with his memory about who was actually depicted in that video. The court will recall before I stood up on cross-examination, under direct examination by Mr. Lally, Sergeant Buchanan was very quick to point out that the individuals on that inverted video were himself and Michael Proctor. And they made the point that Michael Proctor never approached or had any access to or didn't manipulate in some way, shape, form, or fashion. This was the intimation by the Commonwealth, that passenger taillight. The Commonwealth has now conceded that that person was in fact Michael Proctor. It's notable that the Commonwealth went to great lengths to state that, quote, Trooper Proctor, and this is in their opposition, Trooper Proctor is standing feet away from the defendant's vehicle and never touched the right rear taillight, end quote. That's a statement made in their moving papers, specifically on a fact that is of great material importance to this case. The three of them signed, the three prosecutors signed an oath and a declaration, and the court just called the defense out on signing a declaration or an oath. And the court's intimation, at least in its initial comments to me, was, you may have said something that you don't have a factual foundation for. I think I have done my best to disabuse the court of that we were drawing from reasonable inferences. I wonder if the Commonwealth is going to get the same treatment for saying that Trooper Proctor was standing feet away from the defendant's vehicle and never touched the right rear taillight. That's a very bold statement for the Commonwealth to make, and it's also completely untrue. It's not supported by a single fact. It's not supported by a fact or evidence before.
Think about that. They just get up and they lie, and they provide the proof of their own lies in video. And the judge does nothing. Does nothing. Absolutely nothing. But, oh, Alan Jackson.
Before the court. The problem with this unsupported motion, because it's unsupported and the declaration is signed by three different individuals, you can just sort of say whatever you want in the motion. And I guess get away with it. The video speaks for itself, Your Honor. It shows Michael Proctor walk behind the car directly to the position of the passenger taillight.
That alone should just be it. That they actually lied. They provided video, and they said the video showed something that it didn't show. It actually showed the opposite of what they stated. But that's okay. That's fine. That's fine, right, Judge Canoni? Totally fine.
Positions himself right on the other side of the camera view, not feet away. And it certainly does not show, and there's no evidence before the court that he, quote, never touched it. As a matter of fact, we would submit.
Does it show that he does touch it?
Well, of course it doesn't show he touches it, Your Honor. He's on the other side of the car.
Oh my God.
That's not the point.
This judge is a more. See what I mean? Does it show he touches it? That's your question. Oh, how about does it show he lied? Which he did lie. He did lie. Buchanan did lie. His statements were untruthful. But she doesn't care about it. She goes to something else. Does it show he touched it? In your court, it showed that he was misrepresenting what was going on in the video. Try to keep up, Bev. I know it's very difficult to work 3 hours a day. I know it's very taxing on you to work a couple of hours a day.
The point is, a reasonable inference is he could have touched it. He was standing right there. Nobody forced him. Nobody was holding a gun to his head. He walked around the other side of the car and obviously was standing there for a reason. By himself, in a corner, out of the view of a camera. And then when the Commonwealth plays the video, it switched, and the intimation to the triers of fact was he never approached the right rear taillight, that passenger taillight. And all of that
And
was
you
untrue.
cleared that up.
Right. But that is the galling part of this entire thing. The court has asked me a couple of times, and I'm going to get to it a little bit more in detail, what the prejudice is. If that's not prejudice, I don't know what is. It's literally propounding false information to a trier of fact. That is not a small thing. Even after the trial was over, it was concluded, and the mistrial was declared, we're still getting videos that we can't get a straight answer about their source. Where did these videos come from in October? That surveillance feed is on a 30-day deletion loop. That's what we've been told. I said a few minutes ago this morning, I said the Commonwealth may not have known that it was on a 30-day loop. What I meant was actually the prosecutor sitting in this courtroom. The three, my brothers and sister, may not have known about that 30-day override. I don't know. I don't know what they knew or didn't know. I'm certainly not going to cast aspersions and put that on them. But someone from the Commonwealth darn sure knew that was on a 30-day loop or a 30-day override. So who's had those for all this time? How were they stored? Why wasn't that information revealed to our expert when we went all the way to Canton to try to download that DVR? Where's the original? Where are the copies? These are questions for which we need some facts. And the fact that those have been withheld from us is exactly the kind of bad act and bad faith that demands that the court presume prejudice in the case. A few minutes ago, the court asked me before lunch, what is the prejudice? There's plenty of actual prejudice, but I'll get to that in just a second when I speak a little bit about the law at the end of my comments. We don't need to prove actual prejudice because the law presumes prejudice against Ms. Reed because of the bad conduct on behalf of the Commonwealth. And yet again, when it comes to this same issue, the Commonwealth recites this now worn out sentence: the prosecutor was unaware of the existence of these videos, end quote. How many times are they going to try to excuse away a blatant discovery and or Brady violation with the sentence that the prosecutor was unaware? It just doesn't matter. And that brings us to the October 10 videos that we got in 2024. The Commonwealth claims that they received these videos on or about August 21st, 2024. They sort of vaguely claim that these videos were provided along with a letter, quote unquote, letter from Canton Police Chief, end quote. There's no report, there's no email, there's no communications, there's no text message, nothing other than this, quote, letter. And it actually wasn't a letter, it was more of an informal note written on a personal pad, a Canton PD pad by the chief. There's no chain of custody log authenticating the videos, no authentication documents whatsoever, no foundational documents, no indication of where the videos came from or how she came to possess them at the time. But she did write on that little pad, quote, that is how it records, LOL, no tampering, end quote. LOL, laugh out loud. So the chief of police is laughing.
Real friggin' funny, Rafferty. Let's extend her contract. Let's extend that contract, right, John Conley? This is unbelievable. She thinks it's funny. This is hilarious. Ha ha ha. John O'Keefe is dead. Ha ha ha. LOL. Laugh out loud. That's the Canton Police Chief. Unbelievable. I want to thank Barbara M. For sending a $10 Venmo tonight. Thank you so much, Barbara M. LOL. Yeah, just when you think it can't get more disgusting with these people. Yeah. Yep. That's the Canton Police Chief right there. And that's who John Conley wants to extend the contract for. And Susan Harrington, not going there. She's not going with Chief Rafferty. Well, we're going to talk about that on Saturday night with Rita Lombardi. Why we support Susan Harrington. This is it. This is it right here. LOL. Ha ha ha. Oh, LOL. Chief Rafferty on your contract. Ha ha ha. It's so funny.
In the face of serious Brady violations, in the face of serious evidentiary violations
And
and
what was the
discovery
date?
violations.
10/10/24 you received that? Was that the date?
10/10/24. That's correct. By the way, the Commonwealth claimed in its opposition papers that, quote, the prosecutor requested that both Massachusetts State Police and Canton Police Department produce all relevant and material surveillance video, end quote. And that was sometime unidentified between April 17th, 2024 and April 24th, 2024. I laud them for that. Good. I'm glad they demanded finally, in the middle of trial, quote, all relevant and material surveillance video. So why didn't we get this from Canton PD until October 2024? Well after trial. What was the delay? And why did we get another video in January of 2025? What was the delay? How could this be seen as anything other than intentional? We know now that Sergeant Buchanan, we know that Proctor, we know that Chief Rafferty, and now through another report, we know that this officer, DGM Petro, all had access to and knew about the videos. And then we have on top of that, in the middle of trial, I think it was Mr. Lally, it may have been Mr. McLaughlin, someone said, it's unclear from the opposition, that all relevant and material surveillance video be turned over immediately, and it still wasn't done. That is an intentional withholding of evidence. And then we get these new reports. What's probably most troubling is what's in the reports that we got on Friday, this past Friday. Additional reports from the Commonwealth, in a report from Sergeant DGM Petro, he reveals the following. He writes this report on the 27th, which was last Thursday, and then we got the report on the 28th. He says that in February of 2022, and I'm paraphrasing, in February of 2022, Proctor requested Sallyport video of SUV inside Sallyport. Apparently that was provided. I mean, we have to presume from his report when he says Proctor.
A great question. Something the defense should definitely check out. Can the video be put into an AI software to determine if the Sallyport video was edited by AI? Can the video be put in an AI software to determine if the Sallyport video was edited by artificial intelligence? I think that's a good idea. I think the defense should probably take a look at that. Great comment. Good point. Thank you for the super chat.
Requested in February of 2022, Sallyport video of SUV exterior footage that he downloaded it from somewhere and gave it to him. Assuming it was February of 2022, that would have been before the override, I presume, because I think the math in my head is it's 28 days in February. If it's in February at all, it's within the 30 days from January 29th. So it has to have been. Then he writes that in June of 2023, Proctor requested Sallyport video again of the SUV exterior footage. Quote, this is from his report, I believe this may also have been the approximate time that I downloaded video recordings that covered the entire time frame that the suspect's vehicle was held at the Canton police station, end quote. He goes on to say, quote, due to the large size of the files at that time, I had to break it down into 6-hour blocks for ease of exporting. This is the first we're hearing of any of this. Last Thursday. How is that? Sure. Ms. Little just handed me a clean copy of the DGM Petro report. I would like to have this marked and appended to our motion to dismiss if it's okay.
Sure. Did I get that attached to your motion to change the scheduling?
You,
You
yes.
probably did.
So I've seen it.
Okay. May I approach?
Hold on. What, Ms. Little?
We'd still like to make it part of the record if that's
Sure.
all right, Your Honor.
Sure, I just wanted to know whether I needed a copy because I have a copy. I've seen it.
May I approach?
Yes.
Seen it. Seen it. Oh,
So
man.
are we marking it? So we need it if we're marking it.
I'm sorry. My mistake.
Exhibit 1 so marked.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. The question is, how in June of 2023, now I'm going to go a little bit slow here just because it's linear. The argument is linear. In June of 2023, according to DiGianpietro, he downloaded every single bit of video of that car while in the Sallyport or while at Canton PD in Sallyport. How is that possible? How could that be? As of February 28th or maybe March 1st, those videos are gone. So how could he have access to the whole thing? It's because someone at the Commonwealth downloaded the whole thing. They saved it. Or the only other explanation is that DVR was not at the time on a 30-day override. It's the only two explanations. Again, this is binary. So in April of 2024, as the court knows, we got additional video, and that's the inverted video. In the spring of 2024, while trial was being held, DiGianpietro, quote, it says, quote, I downloaded some video recordings that you and I believed may be needed to refute claims being made by the defense. The you and I is him to Chief Rafferty. That's who this report is to. And it includes footage of Higgins. So now we find out for the first time that Chief Rafferty and this sergeant had been talking and strategizing about how to defeat some defense arguments, presumably, by use of videos that had never been turned over. And the Commonwealth uses a phrase in its moving papers, I believe in this motion, about ambush. That is the definition of an ambush. So DiGianpietro admits that he, Rafferty, and the Canton Police Department had Sallyport video that was material to the case. Remember, his quote was that you and I believed may be needed to refute claims made by the defense. They were strategizing about how to defeat certain of our arguments, and they didn't turn it over. Specifically, he downloaded video and presumably gave it to Chief Rafferty. But then the interesting thing is Chief Rafferty held on to it. She never turned it over. Probably because they didn't help the prosecution.
About that. This chief of police wants a extended contract, and she held on to evidence of the murder weapon, video recordings that should have been turned over to the defense, and she held on to them. This is who the Canton Select Board wants to extend the contract of. They should be publicly looking for a new police chief right now.
They showed Higgins engaged in conduct that is, at the very least, highly suspicious and clearly exculpatory because it impeaches his other testimony. It shows him on the phone. And he testified that he didn't make calls in the middle of the night. There's no question that with this example, that is an intentional withholding of evidence. That is the legal definition of bad faith, and it's unconscionable to do that. Now put in context what we eventually did receive during the trial and then after. We received the inverted video that was falsely presented as the right passenger side of the vehicle, or the passenger rear side of the vehicle. Number two, we received several videos of Brian Higgins at Canton Police Department, clearly using his phone at approximately 1:35 or so a.m. And we received exterior footage that would ordinarily show the condition of the passenger taillight, which all happens to be corrupted, like every other video of the rear passenger side of that SUV. This is stunning. It's not like the Canton Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police were sort of blissfully incompetent or blissfully ignorant and unaware of the existence of these exculpatory videos. It's quite the opposite. Multiple officers, Proctor, Rafferty, Buchnick, O'Rourke, DiGianpietro, these individuals, we believe, O'Rourke may not have known, but we know that the others did, and have now basically admitted it or been caught trying to hide it, they were all variously actively engaged with these videos. They were searched for, they were discussed, they downloaded them, they saved them, they copied them, they labeled them, they transported them, they reviewed them, and they strategized about them. These videos were top of mind for all of these folks. We know there were hours and hours and hours of footage that was so large it had to be broken down into 6-hour blocks. All of that was pulled. And none of this footage was disclosed to the defense before April of 2024. And most of the files that have been turned over so far have been turned over after the trial was over. We had no idea this footage existed, and to this day, it continues to be, the bulk of it continues to be withheld from the defense. And then we move to Sergeant Buchanan's actual report. As I indicated, he wrote a report last Friday as well, dated the 28th. Quote, in furtherance of the John O'Keefe Canton homicide investigation, sometime in early spring of 2022.
Is it there? We got a call. I'm going to take the retired highway patrolman. How you doing, sir? Are you there?
Hey, I'm good. You can keep playing that video if you want, or we could talk or whatever.
Would you have something to say tonight?
Yeah, well, what I would do if I was the defense, I would subpoena Trooper Proctor's laptop and his computer at the office, because I know when I took pictures of every fatality or serious crash, I always stored it on.
Are you still there? I think we lost you for a second there. Oh man, I think I think I got the gist of it, but I think we lost your audio. I appreciate your call. Maybe we'll try you again, but I get the gist of it. I think they should actually ask for those laptops. Yeah. Get the laptops and Hanks too. Definitely. They should be getting Buchanan's and Proctor's. I agree with you 100%. I'm not sure what happened to your audio. It just dropped off there. All right, let's go back to playing the video. I appreciate your call.
I was made aware that a request had been made by Trooper Proctor and then fulfilled by Canton PD for surveillance video as it related to the arrival and storage of the Lexus SUV belonging to Karen Reed. This was the spring of 2022. He knew. At Trooper Proctor's request, I proceeded to Canton Police and picked up the digital media storage containing said video and transported it to the Canton, Norfolk District Attorney's Office and turned it over to Trooper Proctor. I did not review this video at this time.
What date did he do that? The same date?
He says at this time, but it's the sometime early spring of 2022. That's the best he can do in his report. Paragraph 2, in July of 2023, so this is a little more defined, I was once again made aware by Trooper Proctor that a request had been made to Canton PD for additional video and that it was ready to be picked up. Since the Canton Police Department is conveniently located on my route of travel to work, I stopped by and picked up the CD from the front desk of the police department, which was labeled Trooper Buchanan with a yellow Post-it note. I further added Canton PD 12922, and then the case number, which is, or their case number, 2022-112-33, to note to more accurately identify the item and transported it to our office, subsequently turning it over to Trooper Proctor. So there's a second CD, now in July of 2023. I did not review that video at that time. See the attached copy of the Post-it note. Final paragraph, in my preparation for trial in May of 2024, I was provided with a thumb drive and the CD labeled with a Post-it note on my desk. What's interesting is that the CD with the Post-it note on his desk may or may not have been the same CD that he transported in July of 23 because they seem to be labeled a little different.
So I haven't seen this report. Does he say from whom he received that?
I'll finish reading it, but I don't believe he does. No, it's pretty vague. It's passive voice and it's pretty vague. I was provided a thumb drive and a CD labeled with a Post-it on my desk to review prior to testimony. So it does not say. At this time, I reviewed video made available to me, which included video footage of the Canton PD exterior Sallyport. This video was labeled with a Post-it note on a CD, and it contained a video of the interior of the Sallyport, which was grainy and had a camera vantage point from the front of the Sallyport. I also reviewed the Canton PD driveway footage. In review, I also viewed video of the back wall Sallyport camera vantage point. I had not seen this video prior to May.
Stop it right there. I did see that motion. I mean, there's not much to say on it. Seems like a fishing expedition. It's funny how they're always fishing and it's okay. Probably Bev will probably allow it. But I don't see how it has anything to do with the Karen Reed trial. It shouldn't be allowed. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. They remember last trial, they weren't even supposed to talk about Turtle Boy. Now Brennan wants to make it all about Turtle Boy. It's pretty obvious. So it's just another shady move by Brennan. Like, what does that have to do with the murder trial? All he's trying to do is trying to taint this jury pool. Everything that Brennan does, taint the jury pool.
Sorry, prior to my May date review. I later learned that this video was provided in an inverted manner. After I reviewed all the provided video, the thumb drive and the CD were returned. It doesn't say to whom they were returned. Your Honor, if I could mark this report as well.
Sure. Do you have an extra copy for me?
I do. It does have one highlight on it. May I show it to Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
The two so marked?
So you do have an extra copy, Ms. Little?
I do not have an extra copy, Your Honor.
I thought Mr. Jackson just said he had an extra.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mr. Jackson, do you have an extra copy?
I think I might.
I've got it right here.
You have an extra copy? Is that one clean? No, that was the only copy that I got.
May I approach, Your Honor?
This one has highlights on it. I apologize.
It's okay. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. The court asked probably the most important question about this report, which is who was it that supplied the video or the thumb drives or the CDs to Sergeant Buchanan? Who's at the center of all these Sallyport videos? Who does he say was requesting the Sallyport videos that he was acting as the courier for in other particulars? Every one of those answers is Michael Proctor. So who do we believe most reasonably would have supplied the information to Sergeant Buchanan to review? It stands to reason it could have been Trooper Proctor. Seems to be reasonable, but I don't know because Trooper Buchanan doesn't say, but that would be another question that would be open to answer if we had an evidentiary hearing. Michael Proctor was receiving the footage directly from DG and Petro, dating all the way back to February of 2022. He was the one receiving the footage directly from Buchanan, dating all the way back to the spring of 2022. Michael Proctor was receiving footage from both sources multiple times through the years. Proctor was the one who clearly had possession, custody, and control over the exculpatory footage. It was his, every bit of it. And now let's recall what he said at trial when asked about all this footage, because he was confronted about footage. And keep in mind, Your Honor, when I'm asking these questions, I know none of this. None of it. Michael Proctor lied during his testimony, but he knew that we couldn't impeach him. There was no way I could impeach him. I didn't have any of these videos to impeach him with because we didn't have any of the evidence that had been secured concerning that Sallyport. Question: there's surveillance video from Canton Police Department Sallyport garage that wasn't turned over, right? Answer: that video was discovered later on and then handed over. That video was discovered later on.
So where in the transcript is that?
I can get you the page and line number, Your Honor.
My guess is Ms. Little can get it pretty quickly.
I'm guessing she
Provide that to you
can.
in just a moment, Your Honor.
June 10th?
It was either June 10th or June 12th, but let me double check.
Well, she's looking for that, Your Honor. May I
Please go
proceed?
ahead, yeah.
Okay. The only thing it's important to remember from a date standpoint, we'll get the date that he actually testified to this, but from a date standpoint, the only thing that had been handed over at the time that he testified to that was a single video with 42 minutes missing and a flatbed and the flatbed driveway footage outside the Sallyport that doesn't show much of anything. It's now been proven, that testimony, that video was discovered later on and then handed over, suggesting there was either only one video or all of it was discovered later and turned over. Both of the clauses in that sentence are a lie. The video wasn't discovered later. It was discovered in February, at the latest February of 2022, just days after this incident. He asked for it and he received it, according to Sergeant DJ Petro. And it wasn't turned over either. None of it. But at trial, we didn't have the truth. I couldn't impeach him with this. He made sure that all the footage was delivered directly to him, starting days after this incident. And he controlled it, he hid it, and then he lied about it. That is the definition of bad faith. That is the definition of withholding exculpatory evidence. That is a definition of suppressing Brady evidence.
Why it should be dismissed. That's it right there. Lying, withholding evidence. Come on. This judge is out to lunch. Really crazy. Super chat came in. Thank you so much. Boris Dump says Fanning and Crawford had a data forensic business based out of Braintree, dissolved in 2019. Also, they were involved in a murder civil case in Quincy. Sus. Yeah, you think? These people are all connected, huh? Not talking about Mike Crawford. They're talking about the Crawford who is she's the, what is she? The digital forensic expert for the DA's office, Norfolk County. Crazy. Thank you so much for the super chat.
There is no other way to define this. He fooled us, and it's egregious. Is it possible with all this sort of years-long flurry that we've just talked about surrounding the Sallyport videos, that the actual trial prosecutors were completely unaware of their existence until Proctor testified before the federal grand jury? Is that possible? I suppose it is. I want to give the prosecutors the benefit of the doubt. I do. Is it reasonable? That's another question, to believe that they just knew nothing about this. We know Proctor lied to us. Could he have lied to them? I suppose. But as the law mandates, Your Honor, it just doesn't matter. In the eyes of the law, Proctor is the prosecution, and the prosecution is Michael Proctor.
Right.
And then we move to January 28th, 2025, this year. We're still getting additional videos at that time. This new camera angle, which is blurry and grainy and wobbly, it does, however, show the passenger side rear taillight as it's towed into or driven into the Sallyport garage. The footage is so grainy and so blurry, however, it's so corrupted that once again, the true condition of that taillight is completely obscured. At a certain point, it begins to defy logic. And the reason I wanted to talk about each one of these videos in turn is because it absolutely defies logic that all of this footage magically cuts out, blurs out, becomes grainy, becomes obscured at the precise time that the SUV is pulled in to the Sallyport. The question then becomes, what's been happening to these videos that have been in Michael Proctor's possession since that time, for the last 2.5, 3 years? And again, I've lost count how many times the Commonwealth makes the claim, quote, prosecutors have never seen this video, end quote. The entirety of the Commonwealth's defense on this issue is the indefensible, which is, it just wasn't me. Okay, fine, it may not have been you, but it was the Commonwealth, in quotation marks, capital. The Commonwealth then claims that, quote, after directing a review of all physical evidence and data files, after directing a review of all physical evidence and data files, this video was located within a paper case file of the investigators, end quote. I believe that Mr. Brennan, when he came on the case, he's the one who directed a review of all physical evidence and data files. I would have to guess. Again, I would applaud that. Should have happened years ago. What's most curious about this video, however, is that the prosecution.
Glad you got your stickers, Kelly. Some people didn't get the 3M stickers because we ran out. If that's the case, hit me up in maybe next week because I ordered some new ones. They should be here Monday, actually, they say. So we'll see what happens. We're going to be doing more fundraising for Karen Reed with the new stickers we get. So thank you everyone who donated to that fundraiser we did the other night. It's amazing, over $2,000. And I had a stack of envelopes I put together that night and sent them right out. So I'm glad to hear that you got your stickers, Kelly. If you enjoy them, don't let your son take them. I'm going to step out for a second, take on my dogs real quick. And then I do have to wrap it up by 9, but we're going to play a little more video.
Now admits, quote, after inquiry, it was learned that an investigator obtained this video from Canton Police Department in 2022, and it was placed in a physical case file, end quote. That's a direct quote from their opposition. They don't name who the investigator is. They don't indicate whose case file it was. They don't tell us where that case file had been, who had control over that case file, just a paper case file somewhere, mysteriously. Whether it was CPD or MSP, we don't know. Which investigator, we still don't know. What can we learn from the submission by the Commonwealth? That investigators did, in fact, download the Canton PD videos in 2022 before they were overwritten. That's the only way these videos could exist. We've talked about that. And what we don't know is where the rest of them went and why we don't have them and why we didn't have them for the first trial. The Commonwealth basically concedes that it is in direct violation of its discovery obligations not to have turned over these videos that were in their possession. But it makes the claim that it doesn't matter because, quote, the poor quality of the video makes it difficult for either party to benefit from the video, end quote. In its opposition, it sounds like more of a desperate argument than anything else that these cumulative, that these egregious errors don't justify the court taking any action because they claim, quote, there's no evidence of bad faith. I would take issue with that. But the quote goes on, there's no evidence of bad faith on behalf of the Commonwealth, nor any of its agents, particularly where the Commonwealth is equally aggrieved by the poor video quality and inability to obtain a forensically extracted copy of the surveillance video. Equally aggrieved. First, in that sentence, the Commonwealth admits that the defense is aggrieved. They say they're equally aggrieved, however. Aggrieved means wronged or unfairly treated or suffered harm or injustice. Merriam-Webster defines aggrieved as suffering from an infringement or a denial of legal rights. You bet we're aggrieved. But the Commonwealth can't claim that they're aggrieved when they're the ones doing the aggrieving. It doesn't work that way. The Commonwealth concedes that there's irreparable harm. They acknowledge that the forensic videos were destroyed, or at least they claim now that they're destroyed. We can never obtain the information necessary to establish the validity of any of these videos or whether and by whom they may have been manipulated, if at all. The Commonwealth can't shift the blame because the videos have literally been in their possession the entire time. It was their actions and the actions of their agents that caused this irremediable harm. Your Honor, this is, as I said, this is the definition of bad faith. And this goes back to the court's original question this morning, which is, can you describe the prejudice that Ms. Reed has suffered? And I think we've done a pretty good job of describing that throughout this argument. But the definition of bad faith means we don't have to prove actual prejudice. Prejudice is presumed under the law. If we're to believe the declarations that were submitted by ADA Lally and ADA McLaughlin and ADA Brennan, then at the very least, there is no other conclusion but that Michael Proctor and other investigators intentionally secured these videos. They withheld the evidence from us, and they withheld the evidence from the prosecution team. Let's take them at their word. Even after being explicitly instructed to turn over that evidence, that is bad faith. And how many times do they have to say, we didn't know about this? It just doesn't matter. Like I said, let's take them at their word. It doesn't absolve the Commonwealth of its obligations, and it doesn't reduce the prejudice that the defense has suffered. This was a pattern engaged in by the Massachusetts State Police, by the Canton Police Department, over and over and over again. And now we know through this new revelation that it was intentional. The prejudice the defense has suffered is legally presumed, and it's also factually proven. And thus the only remedy is dismissal. When is dismissal warranted? And this is, I'd like to talk for just a couple of seconds about the legal standards. Where there's misconduct that's so egregious, deliberate, and intentional, prejudice is to be presumed. That means that the defense is not required to show Ms. Reed suffered any actual prejudice, because dismissal is necessary to prevent the repetition of this type of misconduct. And that comes to us directly from Bridgman versus District Attorney for Suffolk District at 476 Mass 298. It's a 2017 case. Even if the court does not, and this is secondary to that, even if the court does not presume the prejudice and finds that these myriad violations were somehow inadvertent or a mistake, the result of some accident or negligence, this case still has to be dismissed under the second scenario and the second prong, because Ms. Reed has suffered actual prejudice by the Commonwealth's violations. We could not cross-examine these witnesses the way they should have been cross-examined at the first trial. The repeated and flagrant discovery violations were not an accident. I think we've established that at this point. They weren't a mistake. There were too many people looking at them, strategizing about them, to then say, I didn't realize their import. They were designed specifically, the fact that we weren't provided the evidence was designed specifically to obtain a strategic advantage over the defense and to get a conviction at all costs rather than to pursue the truth. There are obviously additional Brady violations and prejudices that Ms. Reed has suffered. I've detailed those in our moving papers. And I want to incorporate all of those arguments by reference here as well. But relating to the surveillance footage itself, there's no question that the Commonwealth intentionally withheld it, and they've been withholding it since January 29th, 2022. The Commonwealth can't really seriously claim, Your Honor, that 4 or 5 or however many different law enforcement officers were aware of and withheld the surveillance video or the surveillance footage, and who were supposedly specifically instructed by Adam Lally or his team back in April of 2024 to turn everything over, and it was just inadvertently withheld. This was intentional. And the Commonwealth then compounded those violations by Michael Proctor lying on the stand about his knowledge of the video footage and his turning it over to the defense. It was literally a fraud on the jury. And now, well after trial, the Commonwealth has been forced to admit that even more exculpatory evidence or surveillance evidence from January 2022 is in their possession. And it was also entirely withheld from the defense throughout this litigation and throughout the first trial. In addition to the presumptive prejudice, Your Honor, there has been actual prejudice. This was, some would say, a close case when it ended. The court recalls that. The jury was hung on some charge or charges, and the evidence suggests that they voted in her favor on others. The court needs to ask itself, what would the jury have done had they had all the evidence to which they were entitled, to which we were entitled? But they didn't. Every one of these videos was in some way compromised, even the videos that we did have. And the compromise always conveniently obscured the truth and obscured Ms. Reed's rights. This is an exculpatory fact that we should have been able to explore during the past 3 years, and certainly we should have been able to explore it at trial, but we did not have the videos. The Commonwealth did, though, and it's the cumulative effect of all these gross and repeated violations that undermines the Commonwealth's argument that this is just about a broken camera. It couldn't be further from the truth. We're to believe that all these cameras just spontaneously became defective at the exact same time. Like I said before, it defies logic. For the Commonwealth to have all this footage for a solid 3 years and hold it back from us the entire time, it makes one question what was going on with that evidence. And I have to say, in terms of lesser remedies, Your Honor, what's interesting is that the exclusion, obviously the exclusionary rule exists.
I understand that that does not help the defense.
It doesn't help the defense. I appreciate the court finishing my thought on that. It's the opposite. The only remedy that can prevent this kind of repetition, this kind of misconduct, is dismissal. That's the only remedy available. And that's what the law, and that's what justice demands. As a final thought, if the court, even in the face of all this overwhelming evidence of gross misconduct, declines to dismiss this case at this time, we would urge the court to grant us an evidentiary hearing so that we can make an actual factual record of the myriad of issues brought up here. This will give the court a much better understanding of the facts supporting dismissal, and it'll perfect the record on these critical constitutional issues. And with that, I'll submit.
Okay, so thank you. I have a question for you. So go back to the podium, please, because you may need your notes. But Ms. Little, did you find the proctor testimony?
I did, Your Honor. It's June 12th, 2025, the reporter's transcript at 1-148. And that's from the copy of transcripts with sidebars, just for the court's reference, lines 8 through 12.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question, Mr. Jackson, just about, so you argued obviously the importance of the Lexus arriving at the Canton Police Department. You argued a distinction between a cracked taillight versus a shattered taillight.
Correct.
In your pleadings, and again, you just saw, I want specifics where I can find something. On page 28, you talked at the top line, cracked, not shattered, when it arrived at the conflicted CPD on January 29, 2022. If the taillight was largely intact and only cracked rather than shattered and missing 47 pieces, as Dayton Police Officer Sergeant Barrows testified he observed earlier that day, after the Commonwealth claimed Ms. Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe, the evidence would establish Ms. Reed's innocence and be case ending for the Commonwealth. The 47 pieces I'm having trouble finding. I just took a quick review of Sergeant Barrows' testimony yesterday upon being prepared for this. I didn't see it in there. Ms. Little, do you know where that 47 pieces is?
Yeah, the 47 pieces is not related to Sergeant Barrows' testimony.
Well, it sounds it from this, so I'm not to read it this way.
What Sergeant Barrows clearly testified to was that he observed a taillight that was cracked and not broken.
Okay, the 47 pieces, I read that to mean it was from Barrows' testimony.
No.
As Dayton Police Barrows testified. All right, where do I find that 47 pieces?
The 47 pieces, I can get multiple transcript sites, but those were the photographs the Commonwealth presented at trial, that there were that many pieces found at the crime scene.
It's the number of pieces that were booked into evidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, if you have trial transcript of that, I don't need 47 points, but if there's something that summarizes it, because I took that to read as I see it reading.
No, Sergeant Barrows specifically testified about his observations of the taillight earlier that day.
Right.
It was uncontroverted that there were 47 pieces of
This up tonight. Someone wanted me to fast forward it to the end. I think I might do that. Let's watch the end of this with
Your pleadings are
Unity.
very thorough.
I will do so, Your Honor.
Okay. Not yet. So I gave the parties until, instead of Friday for all the motions and limit.
Remedy that record. There was also a conversation after with court.
All right.
Again, I only need 30 seconds. That,
You can take your time, Mr. Yannetti. You're not going to be
well, we're all
45 minutes.
right. I certainly will not be. This new false allegation comes after my colleague, Mr. Alessi, co-counsel, Mr. Alessi, on February 25th, detailed 9 or 10 false statements that Mr. Brennan has made to this court. And I want to make it clear, I don't need an apology from Mr. Brennan. I don't expect one, but I think perhaps he should apologize to the court. He said,
Yeah, I think it is time for this Joker, special prosecutor, to apologize to the court and apologize to the Commonwealth that's paying his salary or whatever we're calling it, his payments.
today, a lie unchecked becomes the truth. And I just would hope, Your Honor, that you hold Mr. Brennan to the same standard that you hold the defense team. And that's it.
I certainly do. So, Mr. Brennan,
You
if
know-
you do not have a site, then I need you to let us all know that as well.
Oh, yeah. Bev claims she, you know what, Bev, you're so full of shit. You are so full of shit. You do not hold them to the same standard that you do the defense. Look at this little clown get up.
I will. It's convenient to retort that there were 10 lies by the court that Mr. Alesi lined up. In fact, I looked at the transcripts, some of his suggestions that I didn't read the paperwork properly, which is wrong. I didn't try to shame him today. It was part of advocacy, and I accept that. There was a conversation, and if you remember, when I related Ms. Yanetti's remarks, it wasn't in relation to 3.6, it was in relation to the fact that they were using the federal investigation to create innuendo that could not be responded to. But I will provide.
Or your request for the gag order? In support of your argument for the gag order?
In response to how they had used federal materials that were under seal that couldn't be rebutted to make suggestions. It directly relates to that point, not 3.6. But I will provide the videos. Mr. Yannetti is right that the exact statement that I used was from a court hearing, but then there were subsequent statements made. And so my regrets to Attorney Yannetti, but it wasn't in the fashion of a 3.6 violation. That wasn't the intention. It was to show how they used these federal materials before the case was closed to their advantage.
All right. So if you have the site, I'll give you until tomorrow afternoon to find the Court TV site.
Very well.
If you have it, supply it to all, Mr. Yannetti. So I'm ordering the Commonwealth, if they have that Court TV site, to provide it to all of us. And if you don't, provide that as well. Provide
Very
that
much appreciate
information.
it.
as
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you. All right.
What a weasel. He's such a weasel. Such a little weasel. Oh, gross. Really gross. Hard not to get angry. I try not to swear on the show. I swore a couple times. I knocked over my lighting tonight. Get so fired up by this clown. He's just a clown show. All right. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow night. I probably will do a show. I'm not sure. We'll see. I have no plans right now. I could take it off. I could do a show tomorrow night. We'll see. Definitely going to have something going on Saturday night with Rita Lombardi here to talk about the campaign of Susan Harrington and why she's way better than John Connolly, especially if you don't like the job that Helena Rafferty, the Canton Police Department, has done, and especially the covering up of evidence that we just heard Jackson talk about tonight. All right, so I'm going to head out. I want to thank everyone for the super chats. I want to thank our moderators. I love our mods. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Stephanie, MJ, Scott McGinnis. Thank you to our moderators. Thank you to Abby for being on the show earlier today. Please follow her. Check her out on YouTube. Have a great night, everyone. I want to thank everyone for the super chats and the Venmo. And like I said, we're going to do more fundraising for Karen Reed, definitely. We got some new stickers coming in. You guys sold out all the stickers we had for donations the other night for Karen Reed. Great to see. I sent over 60 envelopes out with stickers this last week. It was great to see. We'll be doing more of that. Thank you so much, everybody who's supporting us. Thank you to the Super Chats tonight, Forrest Dump, Anne Marie DeAndrea. Thank you so much. Thank you, M. Thank you, Nashley. I think I got them all up tonight. Anna, thank you so much. Thank you. What is that? JIL? I'm not sure what that one is. Thank you, though. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you soon. Maybe tomorrow night. Definitely Saturday night. Have a great night. Stay dry. We'll see you soon.